Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our August 17, 2021 City Council meeting. It is 7:02 p.m. Meeting is now in session. Tonight's invocation will be led by Pastor Samuel Martinez from Amazing Love Ministry, and Councilwoman Diaz will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise.
Thank you, Mayor. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we gather here today, asking for your guidance and direction, for your wisdom. We pray for wisdom for every city council person, Father, for our mayor, for all in authority in this city. We pray for our police officers that you keep them safe. We pray for our wisdom for our police and fire chiefs, Father. Father, we pray for our teachers. We pray for the children as they have started to come back, go back to school. We ask you in the name of Jesus that our schools will continue to be safe havens for our children, that you keep them protected from all viruses. We thank you now, Father, as we lift up the nation of Afghanistan. We pray, Father, for the protection of our Americans there, the protection of our soldiers there. And we pray those people that are in harm's way will be able to get out quickly, that you protect the innocent, Father, and that you bring confusion to the works of the terrorists. Father, we acknowledge you now. For you are good and your mercy endures forever, and we pray for your mercy over our city. God bless America. God bless West Covina. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Tapanspai.
Present.
Councilman Wu.
Here.
Councilwoman Diaz.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Castellanos.
Here.
Mayor Lopez Viado.
Present. And City Attorney, is there anything to be reported out of closed session?
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, on to presentation. Before I bring up the recognition of Rebecca Ganier and James Ganier for the movie Rekindling Christmas, I believe they wanted to show a clip. And they are here today, correct? Wonderful. Okay.
Annika Jolly.
Jesse Winchester. What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be off playing football or something?
Oh, no, I busted my knee. Think I might be out for good this time.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Annika and I used to be engaged.
That's her? That's college girl?
Isn't that football guy you're always watching?
Yeah, Jesse something.
I'm Todd James Marshall.
Nice to officially meet you, Todd James Marshall.
You're coming tomorrow, right?
Well,
Wow, this is amazing.
after all this time, what do you want from me? We can. Having kids seems to turn guys off.
Anybody who doesn't see that TJ is amazing isn't worth your time.
Testing.
So may I kindly have Rebecca Ganier and James up to the front? So Rekindling Christmas is an Emmy-nominated movie supported by West Covina Kiwanis, and I see Brad here as well, and will be screened at the Burbank International Film Festival. Writer-producer Rebecca Ganier is a USA Today best-selling author, award-winning screenplay writer, James is the director producer. They have been working with kids in the after-school programs for over a decade and are excited to be working with Thelma and Kiwanis of West Covina. So with this, I'd like to present the recognition. And is there anything you'd like to say?
It's an honor to actually work with kids and to really bring that light into their life and have them realize that anything is possible. They just need the right person's help, and that they can achieve any of their dreams. I wish I had that as a kid. Fortunately, I had a dad that really helped with that, and that's something that we endeavor to pass on to all the kids that we can.
You want me to say something? You guys want to be here all night? I want to say that I have a very small part in this, but I do want to support this film. As you know, this coming Saturday, we're having our Film at Film Festival for the kids here in our school, in our city. We have about 40 kids that are showing films over at Edgewood at their new multiplex, or what do you call it? Edgewood, brand new, first person to use it. We're doing it on Saturday night. And they are giving 10 tickets to the screening of Rekindling Christmas to these kids. So we're going to be, partnering with them. And it's a great program. And I can't wait to see this movie. It looks like a Hallmark movie, doesn't it? Yeah, okay. There we go.
Do you want to give information of when it'll be aired? Do you want to
Sure.
it or just give any information?
So,
I don't know if they heard me on.
Yeah, Rekindling Christmas, you can go to rekindlingchristmas.com and find out more about where it's currently screening. We'll also have the Burbank Film Festival. And then we're also partnering with some other folks for private screenings as we get closer to the holidays.
Well, great. Thank you.
And we'd love to do some private screenings with the kids as well, so that a lot more can have it than just the 10 folks that win.
Okay. Wonderful. We are so honored that you were here too. And we'd also like to give the certificate. Well, this is James. And then this is for Brad. And then we have Rosie Pearson. And then I've heard Rebecca wasn't able to make it today.
No, she wasn't.
Okay, and this is...
We have 4 kids, so, we got to juggle that.
Balancing. And this is for Rebecca. So if you
Wonderful.
just take a quick photo. How long did it take to make the movie?
We had 2 weeks of just nonstop shooting. I got about 3 hours of sleep a night, and because I was both the director as well as the producer. So when I wasn't there with the camera, I then, after we were off set, I then had to put on the other hat and do that work through the night. So yeah.
2 weeks?
Yeah. 2 weeks of no sleep, and then a year of just pouring everything into it to get it to the magic that you see on screen.
Well, it looks great. Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you. Right before the holidays, too.
Are we doing mass on or off?
So up next, we have the water supply update by Upper San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District. We'd like to invite Ms. Catarina Garcia, Director Tom Love, General Manager of Upper District, and Jose Martinez, General Manager of Valley County Water District, to the front. So the Upper San Gabriel Valley MWD and Valley County Water District will give a presentation of the whole water supply.
Mine's very short, but.
Well, you can use this
Okay.
podium. And then we'll go. So if you like you don't need the.
Good evening, Mayor Lopez-Viado and the members of the council. I'm Katerina Garcia, and I'm the newest board director for the Upper San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District. I proudly represent the city of West Covina, and they have been a great partner to the Upper District over the years. I'm joined by our general manager, Tom Love, and Jose Martinez from Valley County Water District, and they will provide a joint update on our water supply conditions. I'm sure many of you and your residents know and have seen the recent media coverage on our state's water supply conditions. Tonight's presentation will detail our water supply levels and the actions we are taking to ensure regional water reliability. Through our many partners, we've made considerable investments in storage reserves, infrastructure improvements, and conservation programs. Thanks to our residents' conservation efforts and the region's resource planning, the San Gabriel Valley is prepared for the drier years ahead. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I will now turn it over to Tom to provide you with the update.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. And I want to thank Director Garcia. While she is our newest board member, as an environmental science educator, I find her a great asset on our board of directors, and she's an excellent representative for the city of West Covina. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to go over just an overview of the extremely dry conditions we're experiencing in the southwest United States. So it's not just Southern California, it's not just California. The entire southwest is experiencing extreme drought. But I'm also going to talk about what we've done over the decades as communities, as water managers, to prepare ourselves for this kind of situation, because it's not the first time we've had a drought here in Southern California. And then lastly, because of the severity of this drought, we are asking our communities to do more, continue the efforts on conservation and water use efficiency, and we have some incentives and some programs that Jose will talk about here locally that we can help our residents conserve water. Next slide, please. So just to tell you where our water does come from, here in the San Gabriel Valley, we're fortunate 80% of our water supply comes from local water. The rainfall that falls in the San Gabriel Canyon is captured in those reservoirs, released slowly, allowed to enter the groundwater, and it meets 80% of our water supplies normally. Now, the last few years, because of the previous drought and this one, that's dropped to about 75%. And then 20% is imported from either the Colorado River through the Colorado River Aqueduct or from Northern California through the State Water Project. Next slide. So here's the situation. So our two main imported water supplies, the Colorado River and the State Water Project, are seeing very unusual patterns of runoff compared with the amount of snowpack we received last winter. On the Colorado River watershed, 88% of normal snowpack, not too bad, but the runoff is only 32% of normal. And similarly, on the State Water Project, we see a similar pattern. And this even surprised some of the water managers who have been looking at these patterns for many years. And the reason is that with the global warming and the warmer climates early in the spring, the soils are exceptionally dry, so more water is soaking into the soil. And the vegetation is coming out earlier in the spring and sucks up the water and evaporates it through evapotranspiration. So there's a couple of main reasons for that. The result is we are now facing another State Water Project allocation of 5%. This is only the second time in history it has been that low. The last time was not too long ago in 2014. And locally, we have less than 40% of our normal rainfall this year. So that local water supply, that 80%, is very limited this year. Next slide. So as a result of this, statewide, Governor Newsom has declared drought emergencies in many counties. It does not include Southern California, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And I believe San Francisco County is also excluded. But it's likely later this fall that all of California will be within the governor's emergency drought declaration. Next slide. So here's why we are not in his drought declaration right now. The chart to the left shows the historic storage levels within the Metropolitan Water District, and Metropolitan is who we get our imported water from. And you see in 2012, just before the last drought, they had set a new record for water and storage. So they prepared for that one. And you can see what happened during the intervening years during the dry periods. That water was drawn down. We used the storage to meet our water supply reliability. And then with just a couple of wet years in between, 2017 being the biggest one, we were able to put more water in storage and have set a new record with 3.2 million acre-feet of water in storage at the end of 2020. But the projection by the end of this calendar year is we'll draw that down by about 700,000 acre-feet. But that still leaves us a pretty good cushion for a few more years, so we're in pretty good shape. The chart to the right shows our local canyon storage. This is the storage in the reservoirs up San Gabriel Canyon that are operated by Los Angeles County Flood Control. You can see the years when it was extremely wet, we had a lot of storage. And you can see most of the years in that pattern were below normal. But we did have a few good years. And the system is just remarkable because in all but the very wettest of years, 100% of the rainfall that falls in the upper San Gabriel River watershed never makes it to the ocean. It's all captured and stored in the groundwater basin for our local supplies. Next slide. So other long-term actions for drought resiliency, and this is probably our biggest infrastructure project here locally, is a regional recycled water project. This is being implemented under a partnership with Metropolitan Water District and LA County Sanitation District. It'll be the largest project of its kind in the country. And essentially, when it is constructed, about 10 years from now, will eliminate our need for all of our state water project supplies and even some of our Colorado River supplies. So for the San Gabriel Valley, this will truly be a drought-proof project when it's implemented. It's going to be about, as I mentioned, 10 years and about $3 to $4 billion. And then the second one is just to shore up the reliability on the state water project supplies is the Delta Conveyance Project. That is the one tunnel that Governor Newsom supports, and they're working on the preliminary engineering on that project. Next slide. So our local groundwater, this is a long-term history of going all the way back to 1940, and you can see in those boom years following World War II, as the area grew, the pumping in the basin really started to draw down the key well. We call it the Baldwin Park Key Well. Until about 1970, when an adjudication was entered into that set up the management of the basin. And what happened after that management, that trend line flattens out. We were sustainably managing the basin until about the last 15 years, which have been exceptionally dry. We had a couple of dry years in between, but it did draw down that key well to a historic low. But programs have been put in place to bring funds in so we can buy additional imported water and replenish the basin in addition to our local supplies. Next slide. So this is where I want to thank the community, all of our communities, because this trend shows the amount of water conservation that has occurred roughly in the last 15 years. So we are 30% below our highest water use, per capita water use. And the trend continues downward. This year we're up a little bit, frankly, because it didn't rain this spring and people had to water their landscape because it didn't rain. But in general, the trends are well down, and we thank the community for that. And we need everyone to continue those efforts to use water wisely. Next slide. And so here's some of our local programs. I'm going to let Jose talk about these, but we have several incentives. You can see there's some websites you can go to find out more information. Be WaterWise and the Upper District website as well. Next slide. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jose.
Thank you, Tom. Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you very much. Tom did a great job. It's like a little aquarium right here. All right, get back on focus here. Tom did a really good job of just overviewing the regional and how the impacts throughout the state have impacts on local retail water districts. Probably the biggest water district that serves the city of West Covina, is Suburban. We work closely with Suburban. We have great ties. Valley County Water District actually only serves a small percentage of the city of West Covina. But certainly, as I mentioned, collectively, there's a lot of individuals that are all part of this, statewide effort in order for our customers to have safe, reliable water, and that's something I'm going to focus on a little bit. Part of this first slide right here is a great visual presentation of how things have changed from 2020 to 2021. And that red, and again, I didn't learn my colors very well, but that darker red color is not a good indication of exactly how the precipitation levels and drought levels have impacted the state of California. As Tom was mentioning, a lot of the regional water comes from groundwater sources. So if we're dependent on the groundwater sources, one of the main ways that groundwater is recharged is with local precipitation. And if we've only had a fraction amount of the precipitation over this past year, that certainly has an impact on the groundwater in which we produce, treat, and serve to our community. So we can move on to the next slide. And before I move on, I do have one of my directors here, Javier Vargas. He's been on the board for the past 3 years. And certainly without the support of our board of directors, and certainly, as I mentioned, our wholesale and regional support, it is a collective effort. One thing that we're trying to get out to our customers is water conservation. That's certainly something that we can send the message out, and the customer can control exactly what their overall water usage is. And by the reduction of water, they also save on their water bill. Right now, we are at a stage 1, as is Suburban, at a stage 1, which limits outdoor water into 3 weeks. So for more information of exactly the odd and even what your address is and what days you can actually water, you can go to Suburban or Valley County Water's website and get more detailed information of exactly what the watering days is. But that outdoor watering is limited to 3 days per week. Over 60% of most residential households, that water is used outdoors. So certainly restricting, being more efficient, doing maintenance on your outdoor watering system will certainly preserve that precious resource. And also fixing leaks, identifying what leaks you have, going out there, fixing it. Again, saving that resource and also saving money on the water bill as well. So it's kind of a win-win. Next slide, please. Conservation programs. A lot of these rebates, incentive programs are region-wide. Through Upper District, through the Metropolitan Water District, there's rebates on both indoor and outdoor devices, from toilets, clothes washers, smart irrigation controllers, irrigation nozzles, and clothes washers as well. So there's a lot of different rebates and incentives, as well as a wealth of information as far as how to conserve water. BeWaterWise.com is a very, very great website, great source of information of how customers can conserve water, and it can dial in of how much they should be watering or on irrigation systems and setting their controllers, as well as picking out certain vegetation that they can plant that will be a lot drought tolerant and use a lot less water. Next slide, please. Last thing I want to talk about is water quality. Each water district, retail that delivers water to an end-use customer has to provide what they call a consumer confidence report. So that document becomes available to all customers at the beginning of July. So any customer resident that wants to get information on the water that they are receiving and being provided, they can go online and get a copy of this document. Customers that belong to Valley County Water District actually received the source, and that's our copy of our Consumer Confidence Report, which supplies them with all the different testing that was conducted throughout the year. And that is certainly something that we want to stress to our customers, that a lot of effort, as I mentioned, throughout the entire state goes into providing safe, reliable water. So that is a very trustworthy source, one that individuals can drink, one that individuals can cook with, so they can have confidence in that water. And that's certainly something that we're trying to promote and get engaged with the local school districts as well, to spread that message that this is a viable, safe supply of water where you don't have to go out and pay money for bottled water or for other location. This is a great source, and that's where we promote Trust the Tap. Next slide, please. With that, concludes our presentation. I hope it wasn't too painful to hear. We wish we had some better news, but certainly we're doing everything we can to continue to provide safe drinking water and reliable water to our customers. With that, if there's any questions, Tom and I would more than happy to answer them. More than likely, Tom, I'll pass the mic.
I have a question. Okay. I know. Okay, we in our West Covina city, we have quite a few water supply company. I think majority supplied by Suburban water company. So we have the south side, we have another water company, and you are the Valley County Water District, and then on the top you have Metropolitan. So I know it's very complicated, and because I went to your training 5 years ago and took the Aqua trip, okay, and they kind of and to see the Arizona, to see some of the dam and water quality thing, and then we came back, and we basically checking, what is our drinking water. So in West Covina, we basically drinking nothing but underground water, in a couple of the water containers they suck out. So we even went to visit, the pump, and including how they mix. So the first question is, can you quickly explain to us, Suburban and other water supply company, the relationship with Valley County Water District and the Metropolitan, and then like a wholesale or something that's very confusing. And second thing is, we have a landfill, BKK, and we drinking nothing but underground water. So how, as a water company, how you control the quality and make sure that our resident living surrounding, this BKK in the middle of the city, and what is the quality control to make sure we don't have a contamination of our water drinking? Now, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll cover the question about the different water companies. And the way this is structured is complex and it is complicated. And that is not by design. It is an artifact of history. So as the area grew and developed from agricultural to urban, you had small irrigation companies that had water rights. Some of those irrigation companies still exist. The Covina Irrigating Company, for example, is one of those. So they've been around for well over 100 years. But as the area grew, somebody needed to come in and build a water system for a new community, and a lot of times that ended up being a water company, a private company like Suburban.
Mike?
Yeah, Suburban, that was an investor-owned utility. In other cases, a county water district was formed under the County Water District Act of the California Legislature, and Valley County Water District also filled that need for their service area. So as the area grew, realized that there was a need. There was more water demand than local water supply. So the region needed access to imported water, and the imported water agency at the time was Metropolitan Water District, that was formed in 1928 and built the Colorado River Aqueduct. So a group of cities, it was by a vote of the people, they formed Upper San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District, which enabled the region to join Metropolitan to gain access to the Metropolitan water supplies. And so that's where it goes. And Metropolitan, they are a state water contractor. They do buy water from Department of Water Resources, along with 21 other state contractors. And then Metropolitan owns their own Colorado River Aqueduct. On the water quality side, in terms of assuring our residents that their tap water is safe to drink, the thing I like to point out is that the regulations governing drinking water are extremely more stringent than those governing bottled water, and they're not even by the same department. So drinking water rules are by the EPA and the California Department of Drinking Water, whereas bottled water is under the Food and Drug Administration. Now, I'm not putting down bottled water, but you need to realize there are things in bottled water also that they're finding may not be extremely healthy. For instance, phthalates, which are plasticizers, are a chemical of concern that, frankly, they come from the plastic that the bottle is put in. And from a water conservation standpoint, it takes many more times the amount of water to produce a bottle of water than the amount of water in that bottle. So we are putting up these refillable water bottle filling stations to educate the public about the quality of their drinking water, and also to help encourage them to help conserve water by drinking from the tap. The last thing I will say on the water quality is recently there was a national competition for the best tasting public water supply. Metropolitan took first place. Anything to add to that, Jose?
Thank you.
You got a cheerleader.
No, I think Tom did a great job. Thank you, Tom.
So on the south side, okay, I don't know, you see under your jurisdiction, okay, the closer pump for underground water, how far away from the BKK landfill site? It's already closed about 25 years ago. So, and have them be regularly checking the quality of the drinking waters for people to safely to use the water that you guys provide.
Do I take that? So I don't know how close the wells are to the BBK landfill. BKK. So the water that's pumped out of the wells is tested on a daily basis. Certain chemicals are tested on a monthly basis. And if those chemicals get close to what the maximum contaminant level, as governed by the EPA, is, then treatment systems have to be put in place to remove those chemicals from the water. So if there is water in the groundwater, and there are chemicals in our groundwater, there certainly are. In fact, Valley County Water District operates one of the largest groundwater treatment systems in the valley to remove whether it's perchlorate, nitrate, or other constituents of concern so that your tap water is clean and safe to drink.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have questions? Well, thank you very much for the water education, and I hope our residents do their part in conserving water as well. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now move to oral communications. If anyone would like to address the council, please fill out a yellow card, a speaker card, and submit it to the Assistant City Clerk. Assistant City Clerk, how many speakers do we have tonight?
Mayor, we have 14 speakers.
14? Okay. Go ahead.
All right. Our first speaker is John Carson, followed by Jeff Tuck, followed by Thomas Klingler.
Hello, Madam Mayor, Council. Nice seeing you again. First of all, on behalf of myself and Bob Ryan, we'd like to thank the Council for the vote of no confidence. Thank you very much. Brian, one thing, we do agree on reform. Definitely agree on that. So we do have that in common. Just how we get to that point, we probably will never agree. But, you know, I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. What I'd like to address tonight is our homeless situation. This country is so divided. Mask, no mask, vaccine, no vaccines. The list goes on and on. But one thing we can agree on, we need to fix the homeless problem in our community. It is totally out of control. I know this is not an easy fix, but it's definitely time to start acting on plans that have been put in place. I've seen our state spend billions only to see the homeless situation get worse. Perhaps we need to take a different approach. You know, we can argue all day long how we got to this point, why we have so many homeless. But whatever plans that are in place, they are not working. We pay more taxes in California than anywhere else in the U.S., and we have more homeless in California than anywhere else in the United States. One thing is clear. We need to control where they hang out and where they sleep, overnight sleeping, and how we treat the mentally ill. I think we treat animals better than we treat the mentally ill. I really believe that. And that's just one thing that I would like to bring up on the agenda so we can discuss this and have a conversation. Perhaps we can come up with a positive working plan with accountability and, of course, showing compassion. I am sure a good majority of West Covina would agree with me. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Actually,
Mayor, our next speaker is Jeff Tuck, followed by Thomas Klinger, followed by Jerry Potras.
And then just to let everybody know, I know our CM will touch on the homeless topic today as well. So thanks. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jeff Tuck. I'm here tonight to represent and protect the property rights of the owners of the properties located in the Auto Plaza, known as the Ford dealership, the vacant ex-Clippinger Chevrolet, the vacant ex-Drive Time, and the Chrysler store across the freeway to the north. I'm here to discuss the actions taken by this body and staff at the July 20th council proceedings. At this meeting, the council considered a zone change and creation of an overlay district within the West Covina Auto Plaza. The property at 1900 East Garvey Avenue South was originally built to house Hummer. Subsequently, after Hummer ceased operations, it was leased to Drive Time for the sale of pre-owned vehicles for the period of 5 years ending on January 1st, 2020. It was approved for the sale of pre-owned vehicles by the city under a conditional use permit. When Drive Time left, we had discussions with the planning department and then the assistant city manager about the replacement tenant. At the time, we were in negotiations with Enterprise and Hertz. We were assured that the CUP would stay in place as long as the new tenant occupied within 6 months after the previous tenant vacated. Then the pandemic hit in full force and business activity stopped. On May 25th of this year, I sent an email to Ms. Burns of the planning department, letting her know that I had leased the 1900 address to Enterprise for the sale of pre-owned vehicles and car rental, and that I needed to talk to her about the filing of a CUP application. That CUP application has been filed and accepted by the planning department. On last Friday, August 13th, I received a call from Enterprise's representative asking if I had heard about the city's attempt to ban the sale of used cars in the Auto Plaza. I had to respond that I knew nothing about this action. Later that day, I was directed to the city's website and the video from the council meeting on July 20th. I was flabbergasted watching this video. The entire agenda item was directed completely and solely at the properties that I am here to represent. The actions were taken to deny and take away the property rights of one specific property owner, something that I believe is actionable, discriminatory, and illegal to enact a code change to target one individual property owner. What makes the situation worse is that we were never notified of the upcoming action of this board, never given an opportunity to provide testimony or input into the process for something that was aimed at and only affects us. By law, property owners and occupants of affected properties must be given notice of such proposed action. We received no such notice. On a personal note, I have worked with the planning department on various projects in the city since 1981. I've always considered that I have maintained an excellent relationship with the department and its staff over those 40 years. I notified Ms. Burns on May 25th of the status of the lease of the property at 1900. Why was I not given a courtesy call informing me of the actions being undertaken by the planning department on the issues discussed on July 20th? Why was I kept in the dark? I have found that the instigation of this code change was precipitated by a letter from the general counsel of another dealer/property owner in the Auto Plaza on behalf of the Auto Plaza Dealers Association. How was this letter requesting council action approved? As the owner of 3 properties in the Auto Plaza, we are entitled to have 3 votes in any proceedings. But again, we were not notified, nor were we present when this action was approved. We should immediately call for a meeting of the Auto Plaza Dealers Association to overturn this request. The entity instigating these actions is a competitor, a competing property owner in the Auto Plaza, someone who has made offers to acquire properties under our control. From our own past dealings with a certain manufacturer, we are aware that a franchise is in peril until the facility is relocated. I hope this body is not trying to facilitate the acquisition of our property by limiting how that property can be used. In regards to the filming of commercials at the 1932 East Garvey Avenue South address, any such use is in conformance with the city code, a code that was recently revised to make more restrictive and stringent. The number of times filming may take place now is very limited, and there is a long time period between such times. Please consider that the city derives revenue in the form of permit fees for each commercial film. Since this property is the only one used regularly for commercials, again, these actions are targeted solely at one property.
Thank you. Your 5 minutes is up.
May I finish? I've got one paragraph more.
No, it's 5 minutes. We have a 5-minute pub. We have others also that needs to speak.
Well, we have our tenant here tonight, and they would like to speak.
Speaker's time has expired.
Our next speaker is Thomas Klingler, followed by Cherry Pochas, followed by Sharon Anderson.
Hello, how are you? Thanks
for taking the time, for letting me speak tonight. My name's Thomas Klingler. I'm with Enterprise Holdings, and Jeff, who just spoke, he's the one, he was referring to us as working with him on the property that previously occupied by Drive Time. I just found out this morning that I was going to talk to you, so we rushed together to put this packet together so you would have something to take away. And really, my agenda here tonight was just to let you know who we are. We are very excited about West Covina. We want to come work and be a part of the business community and the community as a whole in West Covina. So I just really put together a packet so you could understand who we are. We're a $25 billion company that has 10,000 fully staffed neighborhood and airport locations, and we happen to be the 13th largest privately held company in America. We have more than 2 million vehicles and 100,000 employees throughout the U.S. We represent all the brands on the next page. I won't list them all off, but you're familiar with most of those. Enterprise has been around a long time. The brands that we'd like to bring to your city would be Enterprise Car Sales and Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Who are we really? Enterprise was founded in neighborhoods to meet customers where they live and work. That's really who we are. The company, if you aren't very familiar with Enterprise, was built from the ground up by the Taylor family. Jack Taylor, he flew fighter jets off the USS Enterprise, and that's how Enterprise got their name. And he started the company when he came back from the service, and it is now a third-generation company. Chrissy Taylor is the CEO of the company. Her dad was the CEO before her. In between was Pam Nicholson, But it's a family-held, privately held company out of St. Louis, made up of incredible people. I've been with the company for 27 years and will definitely retire from this company someday, but not anytime soon. In California, we have over 512 locations with 6,000 employees. We generate more than $200 million in state and local revenues. And we're very much involved in all the communities. We have done a lot of outreach through our food banks. We've got a $40 million pledge around the country to all the food banks in all the states of America. We also have recently pledged to, in our diversity, equity, and inclusion, $120 million to our initiatives there, to a lot of organizations you will recognize, like the Boys and Girls, the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Inland Empire, the National Coalition of 100 Black Men in the Inland Empire as well, and a whole list of others that I won't go there and name. And if you flip through the few pages, you'll see the dealership we're talking about. We've overlaid our branding that we would put on that. We really want everybody to understand that we are a professional business and we will represent as such in the neighborhood. We're not a buy here or pay here lot. I think those have their place. That's not what we have. We have professional employees that work for us and sell cars. We have a no haggle free pricing. And we also have our rental car operations that will be there as well. We'll generate more than $30 million in revenue, likely, and more than $3 million in sales tax annually off that property as well. So there's also an interior look. And then at the end of it, I also included some examples of dealerships that we have built. There's one on Santa Clara. I was in Northern California before I came down to Southern California, helped build that dealership, as well as the Concord dealership. It's Concord. If they were here, they would not be happy with me. In California, up in Northern California as well. And that's just it. We're a good company. We're made up of a lot of good people, and we want to be a part of the West Covina. If you pass this resolution that you're putting into place, that will prevent us from being there and being a part of the fabric of your community, and we really want to do that. So I'll pause to see if you have any questions, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jerry Poitras, followed by Sharon Anderson, followed by Elsie Messman.
Good evening. Tonight I'd like to talk about my concerns on Tuesday's special meeting. Councilmember Tatabai requested an update to the city's of West Covina's homeless plan, a plan previously approved on a 5-0 vote by a previous council, with the requirement updates would be presented to the council. One of the aspects of last week's council meeting discussion that troubled me quite a bit was the pushback on just providing an update on a requirement to a plan that a previous council approved. Residents participated in developing that plan. The city spent quite a bit of money and time developing that plan. Homeless issues do appear to be on the rise in my neighborhood. What can be done? As a West Covina resident, I would like to have an update on the city's homeless plan. The March presentation referenced in last week's council discussion is not the equivalent of an update of plan with measurable goals, and I did bring a page. I'm looking for something that is addressing these issues. I found at the city website, I found the homeless, what was it called? Homeless Solutions for West Covina page on the website. It could do a little bit of updating. For example, the homeless count from information is from 2018, and the homeless count dates are from 2019. Under homeless resources, I found the City of West Covina's homeless plan, approved in July 2018. I could not find the West Covina Homeless Initiative Councilman Wu mentioned several times during his comments. Are they the same documents? Quite candidly, whenever an adopted plan states there will be an annual report to the council on an activity, that report is to be given. I don't see it as optional. Good governance and the support of transparency means an appropriate report on the goals and actions in the city's homeless plan should be given. Please reconsider your action on this, and please direct me to the initiative. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sharon Anderson, followed by Elsie Messman, followed by Peter Wang.
Good evening. I was here a couple of weeks ago, well, probably last month by now, on the issue of being a homeowner and renting out another home. And it was because HD, I believe it is, it's HD. HDL sent me a letter. Well, I was researching on it, and on March 18th, 2014, in the city council, it says here that regular city council meeting in December 4th, 2012, the city council requested staff to research and provide information regarding the rental inspection program approved by the city of Covina. And then in February, March 19th, the city council considered the item, took no action, asking first to take a bus tour of the city and go so on about the rental inspection program. Then it goes to 2014 with Mayor Pro Tem Frederick Sykes, Mayor Herbert, Council Spence and Tomo and Warshaw. They decided not to take any action on that. So HDL needs to see this so they don't just arbitrarily start sending out this stuff. I don't know. You guys can all find it on there. So I did this, and I guess that's about it on that. So I'm not going to send any information in on that. And also, one other thing, since we're getting more code enforcement officers, maybe we can direct the money that we spend for HDL and get new code enforcement officers. I'm sure we pay them a pretty penny, and that could go to something else. Thank you.
Thank you. Our CM will address that as well after public comment.
Oh,
and he'll contact you. Oh, yeah. He got your information. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Elsie Messman, followed by Peter Wang, followed by Armando Herman.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elsie Messman, and I'd like to know, when are we going to get a Discover West Covina back to the people so the people will know what's happening in this city? Right now, nobody knows anything unless you go to the computer, and if you don't go to the computer, you're out in left field. But for all the people that are not familiar with the new $20 million West Covina, we'll receive from the American Resource Plan of 2021 is the city did receive 50% on May 2021, with the balance to be paid in 2026. So we only received around $10 million. My third problem is we have been paying thousands and thousands of dollars to upgrade the accounting system. Now our finance director, Robin Bird, wants to upgrade to the tune of $1.5 million. Is it really necessary, or is it just another way to spend the money? This should not be approved, as there are things that this money can be spent on. When residents don't know whether they're in West Covina or La Puente, that's a problem. Number 4, the fire department got a 12% raise, plus they were supposed to bring down the overtime with more employees, but apparently that hasn't happened. Now they want $4,700,000 for safety equipment. Maybe they need more equipment, but I don't think this should come from this money. They are not the only people in this city that this city has to pay. Back in April 2020, the fire department spent over $43,000 for safety supplies and equipment repairs. As for repairing the fire stations, here again, we're getting carried away. I still question, do we really need 5 fire stations for the size of this city? This does not pass the smell test. The city apparently approved 30 new employees with an annual cost of over $2 million. How long is it going to be before they are laid off? Now we have a sportsplex that's going to cost $1.5 million a year. And they believe the amount is going to come from fees and rentals. They've already spent $25,000 for maintenance. Is this another swag? In case you don't know what a swag is, it's a sophisticated, wild ASS guest. Okay? And number 6, now what really is disappointing, I don't see 1 cent going to the people that took a hit, like the restaurants, the spas, hair salons, mom and pop shops, to name a few. And these people are the people that need the permit, and they pay the taxes, and they bring money into the city. How inconsiderate can we be? I cannot believe that these people, you're not even asking or anything, and they're the ones that paid the price, and you're giving this to all the things that are unnecessary as far as I'm concerned right now. There's more important things like the streets and paving and all the rest of this stuff. Azusa looks like a disaster. You could do something in the middle of the street there. I said, do something for the city. I said, the city is run down. The graffiti needs a lot to be desired. I said, they can't paint the same color twice. And the colors they painted, it's like a jigsaw puzzle sort of thing. So I think we need to bring this city up to date, not just a few departments that think they need the money when actually they don't. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Peter Wang, followed by Armando Herman, followed by Charles Foote.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of City Council. My name is Peter Wang. Let me just briefly introduce myself. I'm 31 years old, a resident with West Covina, and I retired from LA County Building and Safety for 23 years, and then I teach in Cal State Fullerton for 7 years. Currently, I've been serving for Director of Building and Safety in City of Hawthorne. All my life is doing the code enforcement. So actually, all I'm doing is doing the law enforcement with the building law, although it's not the peace law. Recently, I live in South Hill, and then I own my very, very first house in West Covina in Butterfield. Early this month, I received a letter from the HDL, asked me to pay the business license. That was a surprise. And the first thing I do is, sure, I pay the license as law told me to do so. As the Sharon Anderson did, I did some research. I called HDL. I asked them, what is the basis for you to charge me tax for? And they give me after that, and people say, oh, it's residential, you need to pay. So you are having an untrained civilian acting as a government agency. Actually, I'm putting this way, you are going to having a great public relation issue, because they were rude, they were very untrained, they have no idea what the municipal code is talking about. And then after that, I went through the city, the planning commission, through his connection, I find the supervisor. I said, what's the section you're enforcing? So they gave me the section called Section 16.6, Section 14-68, which in category A, called A1, residential rental. Actually, under residential rental, it says apartment, hotel, motel, mobile home park, convalescent home, nursing home, hospital, and business of like natural or similar character. So in other words, in single-family house, and then I do the research on neighboring city. I also own my very, very first house in Alhambra, right? I mean, single-family house and duplex is always under exemption because owning a home is American tradition. And you are trying to the HDL, I don't know what's their fee base. Maybe they're based on the money they collect. So that's why they're going to collect every possible penny they can collect. Whether or not they're going to misinterpret your law on municipal code. And this one I just printed out on August 10th. In other words, there is no law including the single-family house and duplex. Right now, I ask, said, do you have an interpretation manual? When was the law including the single-family house and duplex? That's the reason why the ADU was there. And they still maintain a single-family house as a duplex. That's why all the building law always categorize single-family house and duplex as a single-family house. If you're going to charge me to renting my home to subsidize my retired income, and then are you going to charge people for renting their room? Are you going to categorize this one? Leasing a single-family house, as long as they are not transient purpose, I can understand a lot of the city charge the business tax for transient purpose, such as apartment, hotel, motel, all these things. But right now, at this time, I think HDL misinterpreted the city municipal code and then sending to the wrong person. If you don't stop it, actually, you're going to create a big public relationship issue, and the residents is going to against it, and especially senior residents, because this is part of their income to subsidize their insufficient retirement money. There's a lot of inflation, all these things. Having a single-family house is an American tradition. So I really the whole council can pay attention to it, make sure this HDL don't do those things across the line. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Herman, followed by Charles Foote, followed by Bill Elliott.
Woo! I can breathe. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I come in the name of peace. Come in my hand with my 5 indictments regarding my verbal assault from a mayor from the city of Downey. Just to inform the FBI that it all started here in West Covina at 310-477-6565 when the systemic issue of inherent overall discrimination based on I, a public speaker. However, Mommy Lopez, item 3, and Mr. City Manager, where does it talk about the issue on homelessness? Do you see any homeless people in here? The only smart people here are the ones that speak about the homeless issues in their community and the social well-being of those in their community that are human. Not like the idiots in Afghanistan. Who's to blame? Donald J. Trump? Larry Elder? No, you vote for Larry Elder for governor because we know the idiot Gavin Newsom failed. We know that Nancy Pelosi's idiot, imbecile, ridiculous governor ran our state into a COVID scare. Who? Right? And it's all programmatic discrimination based on changos. You know what a chango is, homie? Well, let me tell you what a chango is, homie. Ridley Thomas is a chango. And Ridley Thomas, the chango from Los Angeles, has stepped down to be a mayor for Los Angeles. I wonder why. And let me tell you why. He's traumatized the black community enough. Building his garage into an HHH home, using employees from the county. Now that is shameful and ridiculous. Now, as far as I can see and remember, I have something important to say. Do me a wrong, you're a bringer of evil. The devil is a maker. I cannot tell and tell a fool of a fool, oh yeah. Who's blind? Your eyes? And steal your dreams under these lies and more lies and lies? It's not a dream. Heaven and hell, oh well. And I tell you, COVID is really getting better. Have you heard that song? Well, maybe it sounds better if I go, sing me a song, I'm a believer. Look at the children when they go to school. They're wearing their mask and they're clenching to mom and dad because they know COVID is spreading in school. You're gonna die when COVID takes your life. Yeah. Who's blind? Who's blind? Your eyes is still your dreams from the fever in the street. There are children dying day. The homeless living on your sidewalks and streets. So now you find out that dumb Biden has closed Afghanistan to Americans so they can be killed. Thank your 46th president, and to all the soldiers, all the men and women who fight to keep this country alive, just remember, you were betrayed. Another incident similar to the past has come to life. Heaven and hell. No place like home, homies. Now we will all die with the new rage, the new surge. For COVID is not a homeless issue. It's a social issue brought by the mayor and brought by 5 council individuals. And fuck you, Fat Nori Martinez from LA.
Language.
Ma'am, where do I turn these into the record?
Time has expired.
And I got these ones here for each.
Teacher's time has expired.
Pardon me, sir?
You can turn everything in there.
Oh, here?
We'd like to have the next speaker, please. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Charles Foote, followed by Bill Elliott, followed by John Shoemaker.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I almost forgot.
Hello, my name is Charles Foote.
Please stop. Go ahead.
I'm a resident here in West Covina for 45 years. I'm here tonight to talk about some quality of life in the corner of West Covina where I live, which is the southeastern corner. And I know that recently the council here approved for 10 additional police officers for the city of West Covina. And I would like to know how many of those officers have been hired to this point. What's the plan to use those officers? What areas are they going to patrol? Where are they going to go? Is there a patrol officer assigned to the area where I live? And I have to tell you, I've been there 45 years. The answer is none. None. I walk that area every day, and if there was a patrol officer, I would have seen him. So the entire area that I live in, that entire community, is unpoliced. That is absolutely not acceptable. Nowhere's in the Tribune paper, and I subscribe to the Tribune, are there any crime statistics for the city of West Covina? Where are those crime statistics? I know you possess them. Where are they? Publish them. I'd like to know what's going on in my area that I haven't seen. You hired 10 additional code enforcement officers recently. Have they been hired to this point, or you just appropriated the money? If you have hired them, are they going to be proactive or sit behind a desk and wait for a complaint? The city of West Covina obviously has many problems. Code enforcement officers are that first step to take care of a quality of life. I've been here a long time. I enjoy West Covina. I want to continue to live here. But the quality of life for this city has deteriorated. It's deteriorated because there is no enforcement. None. And when there is no enforcement, there are no rules. Let's be clear on that. No rules. Come to my community where I live, and you would see that, obviously. One of those rules is easily observed. That is a registration of vehicles. All around the neighborhood where I live, clearly, people do not pay the registration for their vehicles. What is the matter with you? Why aren't you enforcing that? That would clean up the streets. I watch the street cleaner go down my street and avoid hundreds of cars. You're paying, we're paying for street sweeping. That's useless. Absolutely useless. That is not acceptable. Some time ago, you studied a possible ordinance for overnight restricted parking. Where is that ordinance? Why haven't you passed that ordinance? All those vehicles on the street that are left there, and again, code enforcement would be blind not to see the vehicles that are left there for a great period of time. Not just a few days, but months. So where is that ordinance? That ordinance should be passed. If you want to allow people to purchase a permit, fine. Sell them a permit if they have too many vehicles. But to park their cars in the street as though it was a storage yard is unacceptable. So I tell you, take action. Pass the ordinance. It's been studied, I know it has. But where is it today? Not the bureaucratic runaround. Where is that ordinance today? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Bill Elliott, followed by John Shoemaker, followed by Mike Greenspan.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Bill Elliott, and I've loved West Covina my whole life. We returned home last night from vacation, and I wore my favorite Marine Corps veteran hat to the airport and on the plane. Many strangers, mostly young people, approached me and thanked me for my service. I always feel unworthy when people say this to me because all gave some, but some gave all. I always reply to that, it was my honor and privilege, but from now on I will add, if you really want to thank me for my service, be the kind of American that's worth fighting for. Vote for candidates who advocate for veterans over criminals and illegal aliens. California has been on continual decline for decades. Our current district attorney has made the rule of law a running joke. Misdemeanors are rejected for prosecution, and our streets are filled with filthy vagrants and deranged, violent drug addicts who terrorize this community. The city of Los Angeles has created the homeless problem to fester, and their latest solution is to ship those people to San Gabriel Valley cities like West Covina. Even when they're caught, they just lie about it. They send busload after busload to our city, and we have absolutely no authority or control. County Supervisor Broomhilda Solis is so busy representing illegal alien criminals and the homeless that she has no time left for we who pay her salary. Homeless set up their makeshift shanties wherever they please, including on sidewalks and public right-of-ways. They live in their own filth, urinate and defecate all over the place, including our once beautiful parks. They show no respect for anyone, including themselves. Garbage, needles, crack pipes are more common today in West Covina parks than the sound of children playing. And that, my friends, is a crying shame. Now we have the councilman from the 1st District who describes himself as left-leaning, which is absurd because he is so far from the center, it's indescribable. There are a few things that are more misleading. Sorry. Mr. Tabatabai is pushing for a taxpayer-funded tiny houses that cost $18,000 each for the homeless in West Covina. This is a bad idea. What will you do when those tiny houses you want the taxpayers to build become houses of drugs and prostitution? What happens when women are raped inside those tiny homes? What happens when someone's murdered inside those tiny homes? The people of West Covina will be sued by civil attorneys and will be awarded huge judgment. That's what's going to happen. Like Mr. Tabatabai, this disastrous governor has got to go. Shameless Democrats wanted to abolish the death penalty, but they lacked the spine and the political will to do so. The question went to the voters, who voted overwhelmingly in favor of the death penalty. But as soon as this lawless governor took office, he declared a moratorium on it and illegally dismantled the execution chambers in spite of the voters. Remember, he advocates for criminals and homeless over hardworking taxpayers. So make sure when you cast your vote in the upcoming recall election, vote yes on question number 1, get rid of Gavin Newsom. And then on question 2, make sure you vote for Larry Elder to replace him. He is the governor's leading opponent. We have a state to save. And remember, if you vote for that privileged white millionaire over the black Crenshaw high school graduate from South Central, you are a racist. The forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the axe. The axe was clever and convinced the trees that because the handle was made of wood, he was one of them. The day is coming when you'll have to make a choice, either take a knee or take a stand. In closing, I want to honor and remember Chicago police officer Ella French, who was murdered only 2 weeks after returning to work from maternity leave. The Chicago mayor didn't even allow a city funeral to honor her sacrifice, or even speak her name without botching it. And here in West Covina, we have defund the police communist Brian Tabatabai sitting on our own city council. Say her name, Brian. Ella French. Say her name.
Our next speaker is John Shoemaker, followed by Mike Greenspan, followed by Jim Griffith.
Many years ago, when I first started speaking in public, I was told you should always start off with something positive about the group that you're talking to. So I went out on Facebook and said, there's about 3,000 people in these different groups, and said, can you give me something positive that they've done? Not one single response. I could not believe it. So I decided to see, what have we done? Well, since our fearless leader there, who thinks he's still the mayor, took over, he's failed to improve the financial condition of our city. We went from 17th to 9th. This is after he got his majority. Failed to revitalize Glendora Avenue. Failed to open his health department by July 1st of 2021, and then hired a civil engineering firm to create a health department. I wonder, when he built his house, did he hire a medical doctor to design it? Or did he hire an architect who does home building? Failed to stop overspending the budget by millions of dollars every year that he's been on the council. And if you look at page 8 of the last CAFR, you'll see that we were $18 million in the hole. Failed to get the development BKK gone through. Failed to stop excessive overtime at the fire department. Failed to fully staff the police department. Failed to implement the homeless plan from 2018. And I'm still trying to figure out how, when direction is given to staff to do something, why they don't do it. I mean, Mike, well, I shouldn't be surprised. After all, year after year after year, we're told that they don't even reconcile the checking account, which is kind of the basic thing you do in accounting. So why would I expect them to do anything that actually might cause some work? You know, the health department fees that were scheduled out was a copy of the county's. Didn't do any of the work that's necessary to set up the fee schedule. Failed to reopen BLD except for 4 hours. Failed to reduce planning department cost after taking it private. Failed to hire competent senior staff, increasing consulting and wasting of tax money. Failed to save our city money by moving animal control from county to Inland Empire. It actually cost us about $500,000. Failed to control his temper, resulting in a lawsuit costing the city more legal fees. And have failed to have the quarterly financial reports from the city manager and the CFO as required. These aren't asking you to do anything new where you could say, wait a minute, our staff is overworked, we can't keep adding things to it. They're not even doing the basics. They're not even doing the basics. Then you have somebody gets up here, I disagree with most of your policies, but the one thing I give you is at least you're talking and trying. Doesn't even talk. You know, do something. But then wait a minute, I need to stop about that, because I was once told by a boss that when I took over a controllership at a company, he walks in and says, you know, if you sit here and do absolutely nothing, you'll be phenomenally better than the person before you, because it means you're not out here screwing things up. So I'm not sure if you guys actually tried, if it would get better. You know, I'm really not sure. You know, you're talking about all the things that are happening. You know, Mayor Letty, you get a phone call about homeless or something going on, you try to do something. Mayor Pro Tem Dario, you also do it. I've got to give you credit for that. You know, Councilmember Brian, I'm sorry, I always get your name wrong. My apologies, but, you know, you at least try. You at least try. Nothing. Won't even respond to people who live in her council district. You know, so when somebody gets up here and talks about how you're not doing this for the homeless, or you're not stopping this crime, you're not stopping that crime, talk to the person who lives in your house. You know, and try actually to see if you can actually accomplish something. You know, get some people who know what they're doing in this city. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mike Greenspan, followed by Jim Grivich, followed by Frank Williams.
Mike Greenspan, and I want to thank, first of all, the pastor for mentioning Jesus, and also about the Christmas film that's going to be at the Burbank Film Festival. Because if Jesus comes home for Christmas, he will get no Christmas dinner at the Jonathan Club, which Jonathan Club would have that broad Hilda. Yes. And who else is a member of the Jonathan Club? Cunt Hahn, Janice Hahn. So I'm sorry, Mr. Christ, we only have Christmas dinner for our Christian members. You see, Jesus is Jewish. Same would go for Tim Tebow's Timaquana Country Club in Jokesonville. Yes, this gator's going to throw shade on another gator. I'm sorry, Mr. Christ, we only have Christmas dinner for our Christian members at Timaquana Country Club. Tim Tebow would bodily throw Jesus from the dining room if he tried to get some Christmas dinner over there. Now, I'm changing my talk tonight because this guy from Enterprise really got to me. I have a bad story from 3 years ago with Enterprise Car Rental in Jokesonville at the airport. Back in June 2019, I had arranged to rent a car with Enterprise at the airport. Even their recording said their counter was open till 1 a.m. in the morning. My flight was arriving at 10:55 at night. And when I talked to a live person at Enterprise to make the reservation, the bimbo said, "You have to pick up the rental car by 10. Well, it was like trying to talk to that wall. I said, "But my flight doesn't arrive until 10:55 at night." "Well, you have to pick it up by 10. I ended up having to rearrange my flight and fly into Orlando where they don't strand you at the airport. So when considering Enterprise, I sure hope you kick the Enterprise person in the balls until he never gets up. He deserves it, and his whole fucking company deserves it. How dare you strand people at the airport? Because after all, they just shouldn't be doing business in this community or any place else. Now, there's something I wanted to mention because the gentleman talked about the homeless issue. And mostly, if you go to the city of L.A. or the U.S. Congress or the state capitol, they have committees. Well, the Board of Supervisors has clusters. They have an issue, and each deputy or each supervisor has a deputy that sits on this group. And there's going to be a homeless cluster meeting. Let me just go through it. They meet 2 times a month. You could speak for 2 minutes at the end, and the next cluster meeting on video or teleconference will be Thursday, August 26th at 2 p.m. The phone number is 323-776-6996. And then the access code is 609-569-93#. Once again, the phone number is 323-776-6996. The access code is 609-569-93#. So get involved and mark your calendar for Thursday, August 26th, especially to the gentleman who spoke about the homeless issue, and let them know. Let the cluster, which would be normally committees elsewhere, but the cluster at the County Board of Supervisors, and they have this for every issue. 5 deputies meet. The meetings used to be open, but because of the COVID thing, it's not. And so I definitely wanted to bring it here to you. And because, after all, they're deputies for people like Broad Hilda and Hunt Hahn. We all know who they are. They're the ones that are keeping us from our own government at the county. And they even owe Mr. Herman $32 for his property taxes, where he paid for a whole fiscal year of the library, and didn't get to step a foot in there. So let Ryan Serrano and everybody else know, give him his money back and everybody else they ripped off. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jim Grivage, followed by Frank Williams, followed by JD.
I feel like a stranger in a strange land. Tonight, I actually want to talk about an item on the agenda. Item number 4 has a budget amendment in it, and they're distributing the document I wanted to talk about to you. My issue is actually not new. You heard me talk about this when we adopted the budget a couple of months ago. My issue was deficit spending. When you adopted the budget, it's the first budget that I'm aware of in the city of West Covina that was ever spending more money than was taken in. The amount in that budget was $2.3 million deficit spending. This budget adjustment that is before you for action tonight adds another $4 million to the deficit spending. Please look at the document closely. It shows expenditures of $4 million, new expenditures of $4 million, but it shows no revenues to pay for it. In essence, you're spending the bank account. That's against your own policies. Your policies say that all expenditures need to be balanced with revenue. It's also against what the state audit presented to you, which said that you need to plan what you're going to do to be fiscally responsible. And I'm asking you to not pass this in its current format, to return it to staff and ask for the staff to make an attempt to budget for at least some revenue. There's mention that they might have some revenue from the Sportsplex, but they didn't budget any, so they apparently don't expect any. I know there was comments made earlier about under-budgeting revenue, but apparently there's no effort to adjust that. So right now the situation for the West Covina for this year stands at $6.5 million in the hole for this fiscal year. That means that what you have of reserves will be gone next year. And you will once again be facing bankruptcy. I find that incredible that that would happen, given that the city just borrowed $10 million to bail you out of your reserve problem. And now you're going to spend it all in less than 2 years. So I don't understand the attempt to, the fact that this isn't reconciled. I know when we had our community town hall on this subject, there were suggestions made that possibly some reductions could be made in other places in the budget, because there was an interest in adding some police in the community town hall. And there was some suggestions made that maybe revenue could be enhanced, but it hasn't happened, none of it. And I essentially, at least in my mind, and I've done this money stuff all my life, this is really fiscally irresponsible the way it is. And that's about all I can say about it. And, you know, I've been doing this for a long time with this council, and I'm a little frustrated, as you probably can gather. I would hope that you would at least see your way clear to ask for staff to do something on this subject, because you're not going to be able to go out and borrow another $10 million from bondholders. That's not going to happen again. Not with this situation. So there's no end to it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frank Williams, followed by JD, followed by R. Robinson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Frank Williams, I'm here as a proud member and constituent of West Covina. I wear a lot of different hats. I'm also chair of the Youth Sports Council. I've also been a 24-plus year volunteer of the West Covina Bruins and been involved with most youth sports. As a proud father of 5 here in West Covina, living here more than 30-plus years. I'd like to let you know that, and I know most of you do, but I just want the public at large to know that the city of West Covina has been a foundation of volunteers in all the youth sports, from youth basketball, softball, girls softball, Little League, pony ball, and the constituents, and of course what makes West Covina great is the fact that we have youth volunteers that are willing to put on these programs. And as Youth Sports Council, we do have a little bit of housekeeping. We do appreciate that we had Assistant City Manager Paulina Morales attend our last meeting. We do have several issues that are going on, and I think I'd like to bring it up to our City Manager, Mr. Morales, that we do have a situation with our contractors that we're paying as the city to service our bathrooms and to service our maintenance fields. I know that Mr. Cressup is doing a phenomenal job with what resources he has. We don't want to definitely ever cast a shade on all the efforts, because we know they're always trying to make something out of nothing. But we do have a couple of safety issues, and bringing the fact that we are dealing with being water wise. Cortez Park needs the maintenance department's help, because the sprinklers are not functioning and not cutting off, and now there are literally islands of marsh in Cortez Park on our football field where people can trip and fall. And that means that there's continuing water to continue to go on, which means we're wasting water. So we do need to address that. But going back to the contractors with regards to the bathrooms. So we've had issues at Walmart Auto Park, Palmview Park, Cortez Park. They are not doing their job. Okay, they are not cleaning it the way they're supposed to. Most of our volunteers are coming in and bringing in their own water and their own soap and hand towels, because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, and the other issue is whatever they're paid to do, it is not happening to the extreme where it creates now it's a safety issue with regards to the cleanliness because of COVID and our families. So we're really having to go in there and kind of wash stuff out before we even go in, and literally they're supposed to be doing that. Okay, so we do feel that there's a lack of service, and we do believe that the city manager, Mr. Morales, needs to address that, because those are dollars that are being spent and we're not getting the services that we're paying for. Okay, we wouldn't want to bring light to this, because we know that City Council has been doing a great job in trying to create the resources for our programs that are out there, and all of our youth sports, and like just the West Covina Bruins, we have more than 250 families now that are participating, and their families trying to come out of this COVID and be safe and know that they have a park that they can actually participate in. So we have parks with youth sports, we have Little League with winter ball, we have soccer that's getting ready to start. So there's a lot of families that are trying to utilize these parks from being sheltered in place for so long. So we just feel that we want to make sure that you do know that we have a lot of constituents that are concerned. And I know they're trying to use the app, they're trying to deal with that, but it's just too much that it gets bombarded for the city. So I know you guys really need to sit down, and we would love to maybe schedule a time to do that. Now, also on a lighter note, we do like to invite our city council to our opening day, but because of COVID, we've had to change the structure of our opening day, because we want to be safe for our players, first and foremost for the families and our players that are all participating in all of our youth sports, to make sure that we keep that. So what we're doing is we're focusing our efforts on the 9/11 ceremony, that we're going to be highlighting and bringing honor to the men and women and the first responders that have served our country. So it's going to be more of a veterans acknowledgement for September 11th. So we're going to be sending out those invitations, so that way you can kind of maybe circle that for Cortez Park, because we're trying to create that as an emphasis. So with that, we just want to say thank you for all your efforts. And we know it's difficult being here at these city council meetings, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because you have the future of our program, and that's the children of West Covina. Thank you.
Good, Frank. Our next speaker is JD, followed by R. Robinson, followed by Linda Jackson.
Good evening. I want to start off with Mr. Shoemaker's advice and compliment both the mayor Ms. Diaz, for when you do smile, you have a beautiful smile. You get the opportunity to smile. And Wu, you're a pretty good dancer. We're out there. You look good.
Thank you.
We're working on you too. Sit tight. I too am appeared to address the homeless issue. Right, Mr. Tabatabai set forth a Mother May I. I honestly thought you were going to support that Mother May I, Mayor, because you said that you would if he agreed to A, B, C conditions, which he concurred. And then for some crazy reason, you didn't second the motion, and it died for lack of second. The homeless problem is a very serious problem to residents in West Covina. I think I would not be exaggerating if I said it's an existential threat. I live next to a park, and the parks become a hotel. They leave in the morning, and they come at night. You walk through there at night, you will see anywhere from the range of 6 to 8 people sleeping alongside the gymnasium. This is on a regular basis, and at 5 in the morning, they're walking out or sitting on the bench waiting to go about their business. I don't understand why the council is so resistant on addressing this issue publicly, whether here or outside of this chamber. It makes no sense. This is a reality that we're facing. This morning, driving down Cameron, when I crossed over on Hollenbeck, I believe you live there, city manager, or close by, and you, and all of us do. There was a homeless laid out on the sidewalk. So they're moving up that way. I'm hoping they hurry up and get there so we can maybe get some action going here. But those homeless, as we all know, many of them were pushed out of L.A., and certainly here in the San Gabriel, and more specifically in the city of West Covina, we pushed them out of the Sunset Fields right into our Sunset Parkway there by the mall, into Walmarado Park. Now they're at Cameron Park, and they're soon to be up your way. This is not a joke, so I don't understand why we're not addressing it. Now, I viewed the video on the report given by the Hope team in March of this year. I didn't see any indication that Hope team is being successful. In fact, Mr. Wu, you agreed that it wasn't because you encouraged them to put together the task force, get the sheriffs involved because of their miserable achievement. In fact, the participants were unable to even answer many of the questions. The mental health representative was sitting in for the stars, as he put it. This situation that is really serious and a threat to the residents, neither this council nor at the county level is it being taken serious. It continues to be used as a political pawn. And all I hear from this council is, where's Measure H money? It's about the money. Money's important, but the $40,000 that the GOG offered you and the $70 million that our Senator Rubio brought to this valley is a start. And if it's not going to get us all the way home, why don't we stop to look at it, consider it, discuss it, reach out to the community. You've got Cameron Park Gymnasium. You've got the Senior Citizen Center. You can put together a forum where the neighbors might be able to give you some ideas on how to wrestle with this issue. But sitting here and just listening or texting, which I saw you on that video, Mr. Dario, do mostly, is not how we're going to get this problem resolved. You say that you canvassed all of the city and found nowhere to put these tiny homes, which I'm not in favor of putting up, but something Please, Mayor.
Thank you.
Have the city managers do something about this. Thank you.
Our next speaker is R. Robinson, followed by Linda Jackson.
Good evening, Council. Bill Robinson, resident. I wanted to approach the microphone to bid the governor a fond farewell. I assume he's going to be recalled in a few weeks.
Sorry. If you'd like to have a conversation, it could be outside. Okay, no, continue.
For number one, screwing up 1 year of our children's education. For number two, bankrupting many of the state's small businessmen. And number three, for mismanaging the state's COVID response. Texas had a better response for their residents than California. And along with mismanaging the state's COVID response, depopulating our prison system, maybe that's part of the reason why we have a spike in crime and homelessness. Having a prison sentence on your resume makes it hard to find a job, I guess. Going back to number one, screwing up 1 year of our children's education. A child's immune system is healthy and robust, and the COVID epidemic is a problem of people that are 70 and older. Anyway, the vaccine cult is pushing the spike protein, and the spike protein is an artificial man-induced thing that we get in our bodies, and it attaches to ACE2 binding sites in our circulatory system and concentrates in the testes and ovaries. So maybe the reason for the jab is we obviously don't believe in education. Maybe people believe in child sacrifice and child sterilization, and that's what the vaccine cult is all about. Anyway, you're probably unaware of these facts, but I've found a way to get beyond the obvious censorship that's going on. We're hearing one side of the story, and we've been hearing one side of the story for a year and a half. One side of the story, one side of the story. And this isn't the country that I studied about in school. I don't know what's going on, but I don't recognize my own country. I want to talk about the children. Apparently, the powers that be have decided to declare war on our own children. But I heard about a temporary restraining order that has been filed in northern Florida by the airline pilots, the aircraft industry, and also in the northern Alabama court, there's a temporary restraining order that's been filed, emergency TRO, to try to stop the emergency use authorization and save our children. You may have not have heard of what I'm talking about, and maybe you think Bill Robinson is an idiot. And frankly, I don't really care whether you think I'm an idiot or not. But you're going to have to do your own research, and if you think what I'm saying is wrong, then come to another council meeting and explain to me why what I'm saying is wrong. And I'll just say, well, I'm an idiot, I have an opinion, and I was wrong.
Thank you.
My time's up.
Our next speaker is Linda Jackson.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for being here. I know you've all had an incredibly long day, and it's almost over.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I'm a member of the West Covina Tenants Union and the San Gabriel Valley Tenants Alliance. We want to introduce ourselves to the members of the West Covina City Council and to see how we can collaborate to meet the needs of our community. At this time, many people are at risk of eviction. They fear homelessness, they are homeless, or on the brink of eviction. We are asking that the West Covina City Council list our organization as a resource, and as possible, post our meeting flyers on your website, making them accessible to tenants, residents of the city of West Covina. We'll include information regarding the services and organizations related to affordable housing and tenant protections available through the West Covina, City of West Covina website portal. The West Covina Tenants Union and Tenants Alliance are part of a growing number of tenant advocates in the San Gabriel Valley committed to preventing homelessness by helping tenants know their rights through education, support, and in some situations, we provide direct advocacy services. Our focus is to get people housed and to keep them housed. That's how we prevent homelessness. Generally, homelessness happens when wages stay down here and your rent comes up here. Okay? At some point, you're not going to have any place to go. You're going to end up on the street. Okay? A lot of the homeless people in the city of West Covina remain in West Covina because they're from here. They are neighbors, they are relatives, they are friends. Okay, I've spoken to quite a few of them. I know that, I don't remember the name of the project, but one of the projects that the city had out where they were looking for hotels, motels, and then apartments for some of the residents, I know that program did work. The downside was that not enough of them were able to find housing, but it was successful. Okay, you tried, you did what you can do. We're going to keep working at it. Okay, the West Covina Tenants Union is a newly formed organization, and we are comprised of renters and homeowners, public officials, and the general public, and we're working in tandem with the San Gabriel Valley Tenants Alliance, who's also had meetings where they've had candidate forums and local political candidates give their views on the plight of renters. And they've had 3 educational webinars where they educated others about the tenants' right. In lieu of COVID pandemic, a great deal of information has been disseminated by the city, the county, the state, and on the federal levels. Some eviction protections are due to expire at the end of September, others October 3rd. Backdating April 1st of 2020 to present, various programs to assist renters are created and they continue to exist. And those programs pay 100% of unpaid rents, 100% of some utilities. Plus, there is another program available that pays for the current or past funeral expenses. That's if the death occurred as a result of COVID or the Delta variant. So it's essential that potential income qualified individuals learn about these programs and the application process. Okay, so to meet that What we want to do in collaboration with the San Gabriel Valley Tenants Alliance is we are holding a Know Your Rights Zoom platform training on September 9th at 7 p.m., and we would appreciate it if you could share this information with the residents of West Covina and any organizations or individuals you feel would benefit from the direct application assistance, information, and support. I've attached additional resources that I've found. I've looked on your website, and you do have resources, but I found some additional resources that I thought were they're part of the American Rescue Plan. Okay, so I've got that one. I've even found things for to help people pay their mortgages. Okay, and I just think it's just a resource that you would like. So I thank you for your time. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Mayor, for the record, we have received a card from Herman stating that he's opposed to all council items. There are no further public speakers.
City Manager, may you please respond to public comment concerns?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. Tonight we had, on my count, 17 speakers, and I'll try and briefly address, at least as best I can, the concerns and comments that were made. We had 7 speakers tonight talk about homeless issues. John Carson, Jerry Potras, Armando Herman, Bill Elliott, Mike Greenspan, J.D. DeRue, and our last speaker, Linda Jackson. I'm going to address quite a few of these homeless issues under the City Manager's report, which is our very next item, but I intend to have our captain, Ken Plunkett, come down and speak with us under that Manager's report about resources, about partnerships, about our current outreach programs, about our HOPE team, about needed and provided resources, and I do so in response to the conversation that the Community Council had at the last meeting. So I think we need to get out some better and more current information about what's happening in the town on that issue. We had a couple speakers tonight talk about the city business license fee that's being applied under the ordinance to people that are in the rental business, rentals of, in this case, single-family homes. This is a fee that is applied in most of the San Gabriel Valley cities: El Monte, South El Monte, Pomona, Baldwin Park, Montebello, Monterey Park, Rosemead, Azusa, La Habra, and Claremont. But I think it's appropriate that the council have a conversation with the community about the appropriateness of that charge. It is, in fact, a business, and the businesses are being charged a fee, but never wrong to welcome the scrutiny and to discuss that issue. So I'll bring that back on your September 7th issue, or your September 7th agenda. Charles Foote asked about the status of the additional hires for the new police officers, code enforcement officers, public works workers. I've got an update about all of our recruitments as part of the manager's report. I will tend to his request for some enforcement about vehicle registrations. Looking for other ones that needed my response. Cortez Park. Thank you. I want to keep the community clean. I want to keep it safe. I've already followed up with the bathrooms that need attention, Mr. Williams mentioned, and the sprinklers will be shut off. I was unaware those were running too long, so we'll get on that one tomorrow as well. I think that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. So now on to your manager's report.
First, I wanted to talk just about a couple intergovernmental issues before we get to this one. There was an important conversation that occurred today with the governor of the state and all of the city managers about the state's wildfires. We are in a wildfire season that seems to be one of the worst any of us have seen. It seems to be that way just about every year now. And the governor is asking for all the independent cities to do more and to do what they can with mutual aid. We have continued as a city to provide resources as we are able. Right now we've got an engine on the Dixie Fire, which is in the Plumas National Forest, which is north of Tahoe. But that seems to be the rule for us, not the exception. I need you to know I'm not sure we can do more than what we are now doing. And so I think what we've been doing is quite responsible, and we've been doing as much as many of the even larger departments. I think it's the thing to do. If you need mutual aid, you hope to get it, and when someone else needs it, you try and send it. But we'll continue to maintain our current responses to mutual aids. Second thing I wanted to mention as an intergovernmental report was we had a brief meeting with the California Department of Public Health again last Thursday, a staff level meeting. Current status of that is they've assigned 3 high-level officials to work with our city, and the current focus is entirely on the process by which a startup health department, be it a county department or a municipal department, could receive consideration from CDPH to get that approved. What they're looking at is the promulgation of emergency regulations would be issued by the director of the Department of Public Health and or the governor that would lay out a process by which a jurisdiction like West Covina could receive a provisional stand-up. They have not promulgated those regulations. We haven't seen them, and I don't think anyone will be able to see them until they're published. And there'll be a public review period at that time. We'll certainly be commenting on those as soon as they're issued. Next slide. I think everyone's aware of the recall election scheduled for September the 14th. We are participating by allowing a couple city facilities to be used as vote centers, Cameron Park, Cortez Park, and we've got drop box locations at Cameron, at Palmview Park, at Cortez Park, and at the West Covina Library. I wanted to give a status. We've gotten several questions about what's happening at the moment with our energy and solar projects. These are 2 projects just north of $3 million each to help the city do a better job of being good stewards of our energy resources. The lighting component, which is where we've begun because you get the most gain and the most savings there, the Civic Center parking structure is now 100% completed. Shadow Oak Park is 90% complete, interior and exterior. In these cases where the lights are not complete, we're getting slow delivery of needed materials. The Senior Center has 20 fixtures left to go. Cameron Community Center is 90% complete. And in Palmview, we started installation this week. The Shadow Oak roof permit was issued. Work started this week, and we expect that new cool roof to be in place at Shadow Oak by mid-September. We're working hard to speed up delivery of the Shadow Oak Park bathroom. The bathroom's been ordered. We've got the details in terms of colors and fixtures approved and agreed to. Anticipated date for completion is the end of this calendar year. HVAC systems, we're working to create a submittal package and schedules for Fire Station 3 and for the Sportsplex, and we'll cover those under these energy projects as well. Next slide. Lots of people have been asking what's going on with our 10 new code enforcement officers, 10 new maintenance workers, and 10 police officers recruits. We've flown those positions once the budget was approved. We got 138 applications for code enforcement officers. Those are being reviewed by our manager of that division. We got 134 applications for maintenance workers. We've already turned 4 loose in the field. We're continuing to recruit for the remaining 6 positions. We had a couple that we thought we had hired, and then they changed their plans. But we've got 4 now new sets of boots in the field. Police officer recruits, we've had more than 950 applications received. We've got 4 candidates that have gone all the way through into backgrounds, and recruiting for the remaining 6 positions continues. Likewise, we're recruiting for a number of other just normal vacancies, administrative aide through jailer, police cadet through senior administrative assistant, and if anyone's interested in working for us, we would welcome that, and applications are available on the city HR department webpage. Next, I'd like to invite down Captain Plunkett, and the remainder of the time under the manager's report, I'd like to have him talk about some of our homeless issues that were raised at the last meeting. As he comes down, I'd like to embarrass him publicly and congratulate him for his completion of Command College.
Oh, thank you.
Quite an achievement, and we're very proud of you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, staff, and resident. Thank you for the opportunity to come up here to present tonight. There's been a little bit of confusion about the services that the city, and actually in conjunction with the police department, actually provides as far as the homeless go. Some of the programs that have been brought in, some of the resources that we utilize. So I wanted to take some time tonight to just kind of explain some of that, maybe answer some questions. Just wanted to go over and just kind of explain the resources that we do have, give some statistics, hopefully answer some questions that were had. I want to start off by saying that I by no means think we have a perfect system, because I don't know if a perfect system in addressing the homeless at this point even exists. I can say, being born and raised in West Covina and having a family here, that I'm really proud of the services that our police department and city does provide to our community. I think we do a tremendous job in partnering with all of the resources that are available to us. But I do think that we have room to grow as we move into the future. There needs to be some changes in the way we approach things. There needs to be more permanent solutions offered in the form of housing, in the form of mental health resources. And as we work through those things, constantly building partnerships, constantly looking, our team is out. We're looking for other models that other cities use. I know, Councilman, you talked about the North County system they got going down there. So we're looking into projects, regionalization of services of that nature. Unfortunately, just some of the services are a great idea. They just unfortunately don't exist. And, you know, our teams are just as frustrated as the residents. We want to be able to, the police department, we're accustomed to addressing issues and fixing it and making it go away. And this one's much more difficult, much more complex. It involves a tremendous amount of resources. And like I said, I think we're doing a good job, but by no means am I going to stand up here and say that we're doing everything, because there's more we got to do. We're just trying to find out what that is for the city. So I'd like to start by just pointing out the services that we do have. In 2017, we established the HOPE team. That's the Homeless Outreach and Park Enforcement team. It was initially staffed with 2 people. We currently have 1 member staffed. Part of that's due to injuries that we sustain, long-term injuries, but also staffing shortages. With the allocation of resources that we recently received, as soon as we get people trained and up to speed, that's going to be one of the first positions that we fill because of the importance of it. Our HOPE officer, he works daily in conjunction with a gamut of resources. Our public services, our maintenance division, which their staffing is coming back as well, they do a tremendous job with the resources they have to help try to keep the city clean. We work with public services, code enforcement. We work with LASA. We work with Union Station, and we do work with Department of Mental Health. In addition to our fire department, who is tasked with responding to as many calls as we do to provide medical services to the needing individuals in the public. On top of the daily entities that we use here in the city, we also have developed some really good regional partners in law enforcement, to include Azusa PD, Covina PD, Glendora PD, Pomona PD. We utilize the HOST program that's run by the LA County Chiefs of Police Association. And also we do work very well with the Sheriff's Department HOST team. Next slide. I just wanted to put up a list of some of the partnerships that we do currently have. We're constantly looking for resources, and I think I got the name right, West Covina Tenants Union. We would love to meet and see how we can bring you on board, and the more resources we can provide, the better. But this is a list. I won't read all of them, but really good partnerships that we formed, and they're real partnerships. These are entities that we actually reach out and we use when we're trying to find the right services, to match the right services with the homeless needs. There are a lot of them. We reach out to these. If you have any specific questions on these, I can go through them, but these are just resources. Next slide. I want to just start off with kind of getting into HOPE. Like I said, currently we have one full-time officer assigned. We're hoping to get a second one. In 2017, just kind of to follow the money trail, we were given a one-time grant through the state, through the Chiefs of Police Association, that we actually used towards funding the initiation of that program in conjunction with housing funds. Today, we still use housing funds as a partial way to pay for the HOPE team, but we also, now it's turned into general fund dollars as well. In 2021, we received an additional grant funding to help offset those costs, and we're always looking for grants, and Kelly does a great job through our community service department finding us grants for those needs, as does Alex Houston with the police department. The mission of the HOPE team, HOPE stands for Homeless Outreach and Park Enforcement, so they got a dual role. They were assigned to supplement patrol by, they're on motorcycles. They're able to access our parks pretty easily and cruise around. So they're to supplement the patrol resources by getting into our parks and enforcing laws. And then they're also the outreach provider for our homeless services. I think that's about it on that. And just for some stats, the fiscal year 2020-2021, just from our HOPE team alone, our single officer and the entities that he works with. Now, when I say our HOPE team alone, we've developed a pretty good protocol that's been followed by a lot of successful agencies in dealing with homelessness. But like I said, we use code enforcement daily. We're using city, public services now. I used to call them city yard, but it's not that anymore. LASA works with us daily. Union Station is here at our city. All these providers on a daily basis. So Sam's going out. Department of Mental Health, we actually have a Department of Mental Health team that I'll go over in a minute. But you can see that the team basically comprised of one officer, Sam, who does a tremendous job. Made over 1,400 contacts this year. We've removed over 254 encampments from areas within the city. And we've provided services to 408 individuals. Now, we don't have 408 homeless people living in the city, but services are provided on an ongoing basis. Sometimes, it could be, I put up the services provided because everybody asks me, what does that mean? It could be anything from helping somebody get a DMV voucher to get their ID so they can actually get a job or they can actually buy things. Getting a social security card so they can receive benefits, just basic documentation, helping veterans receive benefits through Veteran Affairs. I know I've worked with Mr. George over here on numerous occasions to get us some help, and he's been great with the VFW helping us. Just meals, showers, transportation, and it can go all the way up to finding housing. I wanted to point out that Project Room Key was something that was initiated. It wasn't very popular in the city, but it was a program that was initiated, and through Project Room Key, we were able to get 50 subjects into that temporary housing. Now, I don't have the data on how long they got to stay or what happened, but they either stay and get involved in the program and they find permanent housing, or they leave on their own, or they decide to not follow the rules and they get kicked out. So those are basically the three options, and all three of those happen. And unfortunately, a lot of times the program rules are such that some individuals can't maintain, and they're right back in the city. So, we get a lot of complaints. Hey, I've seen you out contacting this guy, and he's back in the park. Like, what's going on? Like, what are you guys doing? Well, we can't. Once we provide the services and we get them contacted to the service providers, we can't force them to abide by the rules. And if they can't abide by the rules, they kick them out really fast, and then they're going to go back to what they're familiar with. Then they're going to go right back to the park or the location where we got them from originally. So Project Room Key is ending in September 2021. It's kind of coming to a close. But now they've launched Project House Key and Project Apartment Key, which are longer-term housing solutions. I am happy to report that we were able to get so far already 3 subjects into Project Apartment Key. And there were 3 subjects that we were very familiar with, that we've had a repeated contact with, who didn't really do so well in Project Room Key. But now they're in a Project Apartment Key, and I hope that they are successful. And it's a very good resource. and the Veterans Affairs, they also help us find housing solutions for veterans, which is a great resource. Next slide. One misconception is that, in 2015, actually, we started this regional program with the cities of Covina, Glendora, and Azusa. And we partnered with Department of Mental Health. And we established what we call the MET team, the Mental Evaluation Team. And it started off as, I think it was one day a month when we initially launched it in 2015. And it was geared towards people with mental illness not associated with homelessness. So the county had two separate teams. There was SB 82 that dealt with homeless mental illness issues, which you'll see in a minute. We utilized those resources through another team. And then the MET team was established. So Department of Mental Health has evolved, and they're really good partners. And our MET team now helps us deal with the homeless situation. And so the MET team is available 4 days a week. Our day for MET is Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, they're either at Covina, Azusa, or Glendora, but they're always available to us. And they're not for your average everyday. This sounds terrible. I don't know how else to explain it. It's not for your everyday 5150. It's for special circumstances where people need special attention. The 5150s on a regular basis our patrol officers handle. But this is a special service provided, and a lot of our homeless population is experiencing mental illness where they need extra resources, and this comes in really handy for us. So we have that partnership. The county provides that for us. And you could see in 2021, we've assisted over 275 individuals with mental health disorders and their families. They not only provide assistance for the individual that's suffering, but also they follow up with their families to make sure that the families have what they need as well. It's a really great program. We're glad to have them. Next slide. The Homeless Assistance Liaison Officer, and sir, you can cut me off at any time if you want. I don't mean to take up too much time, but I want to explain this the best that I can. We again partnered with the cities of Covina, Azusa, and Glendora. The city of Azusa had a good program. They have a lot of homeless up in the riverbed area, and they had they called the HALO, the Homeless Assistance Liaison Officer team. So we formed a regional team, and basically the mission of this team was to provide outreach and services. Everybody had an enforcement arm using patrol or somebody they used in the city. This was our first aim at just providing resources. The partnership went until from 2017 to 2019, and just because of budget cuts and staffing cuts, nobody was really able to allocate a full-time body to this. So the program has since gone away. But during the program, when it was established from 2017 to 2019, we assisted over 700 individuals with contacts and providing services. Next slide. This one, Union Station, in January 2020, I believe was the date. We actually signed a contract with Union Station. Union Station is the lead housing entity for providing homeless housing services. So we brought them on. We used Measure H money that we received and actually hired Union Station here. We're part of a 5 cities a venture with the cities of Covina, Azusa, Duarte, Glendora. And they all have a worker at their locations as well to help them deal with homeless entry. They work here. They work here during the day, but they're on call, and they're a good resource for us to have and able to get people into housing. They actually kind of administer our voucher program too. The voucher money that we received a grant from the state to provide vouchers for temporary solutions, either in emergency situations. It could be for, there's a gamut. It's not just homeless. It's victims of domestic violence and all kinds of stuff that our voucher program can go to. But we do have that program, and Union Station helps us administer that. Next slide. Resource that I've been asked about is the LA County Chiefs of Police host team, we call it. It's the Sheriff's Department host in conjunction with the county met with the cities in LA County that have city police departments, and they understand that homelessness is a cross-jurisdictional issue, right? And we all need to get involved. The county allocated, I believe, I think the first 4 years of it, I think it was $1 million that funded this program that was available to police departments. I want to say there was 45 of us involved, so the money was kind of spread out. And basically, it is a regional effort to send resources to city where hotspots were and where things were needed. We joined the team. We've utilized the resources. They've been in our city tons of times to address our homeless needs. We've sent people out to other cities to address homeless needs. It's kind of a give and take program. It does. We are able to be reimbursed for some overtime for homeless issues through that funding, which is a good source. And I just gave an example. Just when people ask, well, what do they actually do? Down there towards the bottom, there was an operation that we had. It went a Saturday and Sunday. It was over a weekend. 226 homeless individuals in the city of West Covina, Azusa, El Monte, and Montebello were contacted. 90 of them were open to services. 136 refused services, and many refused to talk to the outreach workers. That happens. It could take many contacts with an individual. There's a trust issue. Sometimes they're reluctant to talk to law enforcement. Sometimes it just takes a while to figure out that, hey, we're here to help. So it is a process. It is frustrating when it looks like the police show up and then we just turn around and walk away and nothing's done. But sometimes that's our only recourse, and sometimes that could be just the beginning of building a relationship. I know Mr. Duro, sometimes it could be we just didn't do our job, but those are few and far between, I hope. And I kid with Mr. Duro, but I appreciate his feedback for the police department. But an issue that I want to bring up here is when 90 of these individuals said they're open to services, right? We do these operations and people say, hey, I'm ready. Let's do it. And they got to go through the CES system to get entered into the city, entered into the system before they can receive benefits. And somewhere in between, sometimes they just decide, I'm really not into it. And they walk away. There's nothing that says they're obligated to take the services. So a lot of times we report, hey, we did this big thing, and 15 people said they would accept services. Well, in reality, only maybe 1 or 2 do. And unfortunately, because of confidentiality issues, we don't ever get the data as to exactly what occurred behind the scenes. We just know that there was contacts made. Now, I will say we've made progress in these areas with some of the entities that are building relationships with law enforcement, so some of that data is being divulged to us. Just like with the mental health team when we started, sharing the 5150 data was a little bit rough at the beginning because of HIPAA laws and things, but we got that worked out. So you could see out of the 226, quite a few refused to even talk to us or accept. So next slide. This is Mr. Wu. This is this kind of slide talks about the sheriff's team that came in. And we've done some operations where the sheriff's host team comes in. The sheriff's host team is basically the lead agency on homelessness in LA County. They started it. They were kind of the sounding board. Hey, how do we do this? What do we do? We developed a really good relationship with them early on when we were first venturing into the homeless outreach services, and we asked if they could come in. They hadn't done a partnership like that before in incorporated city, but they agreed to come in, and we hosted the first official partnership with LA County Host. They came in, and basically it was a train the trainer program. They introduced us to LASA, they introduced us to Union Station, they brought in all their people, they told us how they approach people, how they contact people, what information they get. They taught us about the 21-day encampment removal protocol that they have that they have successfully ran through court and haven't been sued. They taught us basically how to put the program together and how to utilize. They use the flood control people, the city yard people for the county. They taught us how to put our team together. And what they also did is they came in and provided all of our officers training so that we were post-certified to be able to respond to homelessness, which was a requirement through the state. So we got that training. And we continue to be in great contact with them. They've been in our city for 4 major operations. The first one was, I don't know if you remember, we had the command post out at El Pollo Loco, and looked like we had thousands of officers running around the city. It was successful, but the numbers, I believe I put the numbers in here. Yeah, the first official partnership, 32 homeless individuals were actually contacted. 13 of those agreed to accept some type of service, to include mental health and temporary housing. I know one person was driven to a facility who I believe actually received the services, but those were the numbers out of our operation, so which was successful. The other big ones that they helped us on were the behind the 390 Pizza on the hillside down at Azusa and Amar. That was a major encampment that we dealt with in a city yard nightmare with all the trees and bushes. They helped us at the Sportsplex when we had a major encampment up there while it was closed, and then also the Branca overpass, which a lot of residents don't know. We had numerous homeless individuals living. When they built the new Barranca overpass over the freeway, they left the old one, and they left about a 5 to 6 foot gap. And the homeless people figured out how to get in there, and there was a bunch of them living in there. And it was causing some really big health concerns with how they had to transverse. They were actually hanging on to the cliff and rolling. It was a nightmare. We finally got it sealed up, but the county came out to help us with that one too. It was a pretty interesting venture. Next slide. I'll try to wrap this up. I just wanted to give you guys some data. I know, people ask, we don't ever see the numbers. We don't see the stats. This, I try to go from most recent to down to 2017 when we started thinking about homeless services more seriously. In 2020, our last homeless count consensus through the county was 124 homeless people living in West Covina. If you look at that compared to 2018, we've actually decreased by quite a bit. I'd like to think it's because of the services we're providing. I know the count fluctuates, but I really do believe that we're doing a good job as a police department. But I'm not standing up here to say that we don't have room to grow. 2020, we responded. Our patrol officers responded to 3,300 calls for service. We made 102 arrests of homeless individuals. We issued 28 citations, and the FIs are just field interviews where we contact somebody and document our contact. So those are the numbers there, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer any questions. And the last slide, or actually the last two, I did want to address this. It's consistent with the homeless plan that was developed in 2018. We did work very closely with Nicole when she developed that plan, and it was partly, the steps that we had to go through to receive funding. And we talked about the hoops that are involved in getting this funding, and this was a major one. But I just wanted to go over some of the things at the police department where we have evolved and tried to fix our program. We attended community meetings to engage with residents to address concerns. This was kind of a mandate of the plan, but also the community actually hosted meetings as well. And it's kind of ironic that I'm up here talking about homeless problems because I was at that first meeting. It didn't go so well for me, but. But we do listen and we do try to evolve, and working with the community is something that I think would be beneficial to get ideas, and we're working on ways to collaboratively bring that together as part of some of the solutions, something that we'll be working with the council on, some ideas moving forward. We've developed the working relationships with the county entities. I don't need to go over that. We created tips for businesses, and we put it on the website, and as Ms. Patras pointed out, it needs to be updated, so that's my fault, and we will get that updated. But we did provide that as part of something that we needed to do to enhance our services. And not only did we created that website information, we actually created a toolkit for business owners, and we met in the city with business owners at various luncheons and provided the information on how they can protect their businesses and some things that they can do to be proactive. We developed a means of implementing tracking solution to enhance our record system, just so we could track homeless involved calls of that nature. Before it was, hey, we stopped 1,000 people, then we had to go through each call and figure out who said they were homeless. And it was kind of daunting gathering the statistics. So we did fix that so we can research and find out, and it's easier to us to find out who received services and who didn't. our in-house record system is probably the best. The county ones they don't seem to share. And for us, ours is the easiest for us to track. We developed a homeless service card that we give to the homeless individuals. It provides information on where they can receive services. It gives them the option to call 211 to talk to somebody to get homeless services. Next slide and the last slide, I promise. We assisted in the city creation of the ordinance for the removal of encampments and the storage of property, to include creating a storage and property evidence procedure and facility at the police station. Athens really helped us out with bins to use to store this stuff, and it's a pretty big process. Every time we remove encampment, I think the public thinks that we just pick it up and throw it away, but we actually pick it up and we inventory it all and we bag it, and we have to keep it at the station for a mandated amount of time. And if you've seen some of the encampments, you know what this entails. So it takes city yard to go with us to help us bring it back, and it usually for an encampment it's at least 3 or 4 hours to just get through the evidence part when we get back to the station. So there's a lot of work involved in what goes on. We assisted in enhancing the city's ordinance in public camping, implemented the 21-day court scrutinized protocol for removing encampments. We developed response protocols like we talked about, using conjunction with all the resources available here in our city. And then we obviously utilize the Go app, which I think works well to gather information. And obviously with the police department, we need the support of the residents. The more information you can give us, if there's needles and all kinds of crazy stuff at the park, please help us out by taking a picture of it and sending it through the Go app, or just giving us a call so we're aware of it so that we can get to it before kids do. We definitely want to stay on top of that stuff. We're trying the best that we can. I think as our maintenance crew gets more people back, we get our second Hope officer back, and we get everybody engaged in providing that information, we can get that stuff cleaned up in a timely manner. So sorry I took so long. We can, sir. I have not, but we can. Presentation.
Does the council have any questions? Councilman Wu?
Okay, I remember in March, we have that meeting, and then including, the chief give a presentation, and including the whole team. And I remember that time we talking about we have a 3-person, including, I think, Monica, one of the lady, is that Monica? Terry. Yeah, she's very outstanding, and explain. And I joined a lot of town hall meeting with her, and she explained everything, including, and the neighborhood watch. She's one of the key person. And not only that, and then she showed us about the homeless. And with your hope, and the outreach program. I think outreach is the only way it will work. And then so what happened? Why not, based on your report, it's only one person?
We have one officer assigned full-time, but we do work in conjunction with our code enforcement, which Terry Grisham is a huge part of it, and she's very instrumental in helping the businesses and taking care of some of that side of the program. But she's out daily with encampments with city yard folks and our Hope people, and they all work in conjunction. We have one full-time officer.
Quarterly or maybe monthly about what kind of outreach they did, and how many people they help. And the most important thing is, how many of homeless come? How many the population? How many we have in West Covina? Because one time we have quite a lot, and then next year when we're complaining about they are dropping the homeless population into our park, and suddenly we're down to 50% of a population. So we want to have a genuine about what kind of a population we have, and how we, approach them. So do you have a record about how many of homeless population we have currently in West Covina?
Yes, sir. Pauline, if you can go back a couple slides where the statistics are. Actually, if you can go back to the Hope slide. Yeah, there you go. Is that the slide I was looking for?
The next one?
Yeah, you can go back to that last one. I'm sorry, Pauline, my fault.
No.
So the homeless consensus for the homeless count for 2020 basically said we had 124 homeless people in the city. Now,
this is based on county numbers.
It's based on the people that we sent out to do count and what they reported back and what the county then reports. Now, I think the system is somewhat flawed because not everybody who goes out knows what they're doing.
I doubt it. Okay.
But I think it's based on a best guess, and they're trying to utilize resources that they don't have to help in this count. And I think they're just trying to take the best stab at it.
So they just wild guess, not really genuine count.
It's counting and it's guess, but you could see in the 120, 130 range, the 277. There was one point where we had a lot. I don't know if it ever got that high, but
on the 2018 when we received the 277 count. Okay, and this is I think that's the year we have the joint task outreach, and then at the same time that year in September, October we received. A county dropped the homeless population into our park, and they got caught by our police department. I think you have a record of that. So that we, in the council meeting, we threat to potentially sue the county, okay, and we ask about how can we don't even have a resource, and they drop the population to us, how we, deal with all this, newcomer, and then next year, then we down to 127 or something. I think this is potentially the numbers, I doubt it, because people doesn't move, I think we have a more drop based on your record. Can we have a record, and how many times they get caught, and the dropping, or deliver the homeless into our park or into our 7-Eleven? Do you have a record for that?
Yeah, we had either several or a couple years now where we had some instances where people from outside the city were being dropped at our parks. It was something that we dealt with the neighboring agency, and we believe that it hasn't happened since. We have, just like somebody said, there's other states that are sending their homeless people to California, and we know that that's happening.
No, I just want to prove that under your...
So there have been instances where we have found out that homeless people are being directed to West Covina and to pick up a payphone and ask for help. So one of the double-edged swords about homelessness, we ask homeless people, why are you here? And they tell us oftentimes because you treat us good. We are respectful to the homeless individuals. We are trying to work to get them services. We do have to enforce the laws when we have to, and we take that action, but we try to do it respectfully. But the homeless people have admitted that they get treated well here. I mean, I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of. I think they get treated worse in other places, and we're doing what we can. We're trying to address the problems, and I still think it's something that we need to continue doing.
Another problematic experience I have not too long ago in the South Side, and we met one of a homeless lady and we just accidentally, when I was walking with a resident to see some graffiti, this and that, and then we met this lady. This lady, supposedly based on the resident told me she is regular in the neighborhood, but this time when she introduced her to me, said to the city council, and she right away request help. She said, can I get shelter? And can I have a wound? It's never healed. So I right away called the city, Mike Krisa, and they called the Union Station, and they promised they will pick her up from the Friendship Park, and provide shelter. And that's what the text I received. And then I told the resident, and they're very happy. Let somebody get help. And later on, I find out that she didn't get picked up at all. And they only show up to give her some hygiene and food. Totally different than what the information that the lady requests to have help, to shelter and medical attention. And then later on, I request you send me the possible get picked up by, LASA. From. So how can we avoid this kind of situation that miscommunication, people request help and they don't get help, and they receive the major H money?
Right, and that does happen. But in this circumstance, I was called at home over the weekend on that issue, and we addressed it fast. I think there was a chain that got there quick. The information that you received was partially inaccurate. The LASA, or not LASA, Union Station did follow up with her. They had checked her in the system. She had been entered in the system, and she had been kicked out of Project Room Key on 2 previous occasions. So they couldn't then put her in housing again because she didn't qualify, because she's already proven that she couldn't live there. So they gave her food, they gave her medical supplies for her wound, and they gave her contact information, and they said that we would come back. They followed up with her. She moves around. She doesn't have a phone. They have no way of contacting her. But fortunately, we have been notified from Union Station that she has been contacted by LASA, and she's in the process of receiving services through LASA. So, like I said, it takes time, and this is kind of some of the frustration. On the surface, it looks like we didn't do anything. On the surface, it looks like it's failing, and to an extent, it is. But these are the things that we deal with. Like if a person can't participate in the program, and we try to find them housing, and the housing authority says can't take them, we can't put them anywhere. So
understand.
We try to deal with that stuff.
We here try to solve the problems, see where is the flop, and if they have a mistake, and we try to correct that mistake. Sure. Okay, and then so we need to be truthful for what agency. Sure. Okay, we don't want to cover for them if they, based on my proof on the text, they promise to pick her up and they give her some medical attention, but end up it didn't happen. Okay, so and then later on they say this and that. So what is truth? Okay, when somebody finally homeless person, okay, and human being requests help, and I even went to Friendship Park to locate her. She's right there with a couple. Okay, and I told her, okay, and at 1:30 somebody will pick up based on the text I received. Okay, and then end up she didn't receive the shelters. Okay, that's what she requests. So this is a disappointment about station, Union Station, okay, and supposedly provide shelter. Okay, so let's hopefully we can let them know or give her communication. Okay, if they cannot do it, then we'll find some other agency and to find some kind of help, or we can maybe find church. Okay, and can consolidate. Remember, some church maybe can house her. Okay, at least give her a chance that she's willing to get help. This is my point. Okay, I think your report looks so good, but we still have a lot of room because we still see homeless people on the street, in the park, okay, and we really hope we can help those population, okay, and if they, and request, some kind of assistance. So hopefully we can help them. Okay, I'm done with my time. Thank you.
Do you have questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for giving me the floor. So you mentioned that we did have room to grow and looking out for maybe more permanent. Oh. No, I can't hear behind here. I just said over. Oh, okay. How's that, everyone?
Thank you.
Today was my first day teaching, so my voice is not quite in shape. So, but you mentioned about the room for growth and possibly more permanent solutions. And I know our Community and Senior Services Commission was engaging with the possibility of a CAHOOTS program and looking at that as a possibility to bring a more consistent, sustained mental health an ENT component to go out and outreach. I was just wondering your thoughts on that program, and then also some other, I guess, ideas that you have currently in terms of the more permanent solutions that you've been thinking about.
Okay. Programs like CAHOOTS, there's agencies out of there. There's different entities that provide homeless outreach services. Ultimately, the services go through LASA and Union Station, especially for housing. Some of we're looking into a lot of those programs currently, but a drawback to them is a lot of those service providers, they're able to provide services or offer services, but there's certain things that they won't respond on. If somebody's mentally ill and having an episode and being potentially violent, if they're out in public, drinking and stuff. There's certain things that they say, hey, the police need to go and make the contact. So we're trying to look into the money that it takes to bring on these things. Is it worth it if we're still going to need to respond, and how do we offset that? And we're looking at what other cities do and how they utilize them. So that's something that we're working through, but something that we're open to looking at for sure. You ask about long-term solutions. Unfortunately, there's people that are suffering from serious mental illness that are walking the streets. They just don't have the services they need, and there's nothing long-term for them at this point. I think as a city, a county, a state, I think that we need to push in a direction, to finding people sustainable rehab programs. Are there enough places available? Oftentimes we get somebody who's at that moment where they're ready to give in and surrender, and sometimes the services aren't available, and they got to wait. Sometimes if you miss that opportunity, you miss that opportunity. So the solutions to homelessness with the service and stuff, I think they're a great idea. I think a little bit the cart was put before the horse. That was the idea thrown out there without the resources being built behind the scenes to actually accommodate all this stuff. So I think as we start getting the resources to accommodate some of these services that we say we offer and have them be available when we need it, I think that'll really help us moving forward and helping to, I won't say solve, because homelessness has been an issue for a long time. I don't know if we're ever going to solve it, make it go away, but maybe we can really have an impact. And then look at some type of permanent or semi-permanent housing solution to help us be able to enforce some of the camping laws and stuff that our hands are somewhat tied on. But looking at a regional approach, it seems like when the law was changed, it was kind of in your jurisdiction, you need to have this, but it seems like some of those have been relaxed, especially with Judge Carter and the work that he's doing. And I think regional options are opening up, and regional solutions on a more scaled basis. We partner with these agencies around us, and I think by bringing us together for solutions in a region would be a little more beneficial instead of the bigger spa area, kind of even narrowing it down. But that it's gonna take help. We're working as hard as we can, but we need you guys to help work with other local politicians to start some of these conversations and think about how we get funding. I think our residents pay a great deal in taxes, and that we're going to Measure H, and are we getting the funding back that we should be getting to solve our problems? And solutions like that are bigger than just what we're doing day to day to chase the homeless around and try to offer them services. But the bigger idea on a bigger scale are the things that we actually need to start pushing forward and working through and working towards.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I remember you mentioned that we only have one officer that's out there working on this homeless issue, right?
Solely dedicated, yes.
Okay.
But all of our patrol officers respond to homeless situations.
So I'm just wondering, how would they handle, or what are their hours, or they'll be able to handle homeless people that are living at Cameron Park, as one of our speakers mentioned, that they're there at night and they leave in the morning. So how do we address that?
Our patrol officers are equipped and trained to address it. We just if there was an encampment, our patrol officers would go and ask them to leave. We have to give them a reasonable amount of time to be able to move their stuff, and then that would be something that the homeless officer would come in the next day and follow up on. So the resources are out there.
Okay, good. So that would be a reason for this resident to go ahead and report that on the Go app?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. And like I said, the frustration, and I get it. I get the frustration. I live in a community too, and everybody wants the same thing.
Right.
But the frustration is that sometimes we go out there and we leave, and it looks like we didn't do anything. Right. In reality, we did. We're following the protocol. I could tell you we follow the protocol, we follow the law, we work within the parameters of the law. Right. And
I will say I appreciate everything that you're doing. I mean, I think everyone's working hard on this. Everybody is trying to get this solved, but it's never going to get solved. it's just people don't want to be helped. And I think once we realize that they don't want to be helped, or maybe they need to go somewhere else. And but it bothers me that we put so much effort and we're trying to help these people, and we have officers that are so nice to them that they don't want to leave. Maybe that's a way to get them to, hey, you got to stop being homeless. You got to, get on track here. You need to get cleaned up, or whatever it is that needs to be done in order for them to be not homeless. It's just frustrating.
My question is that it's sad that there's not one system of communication in regards to the homeless. And I know you mentioned that counties not sharing their homeless information. What is currently in place with other cities with the information? Because, thank you that, you treat the homeless well. But at the same time, that could also have an influx where other cities may not be treated well, then they just move them along. And what I don't want to see is shifting from, here coming back here, or just an influx. What is there that we have in place with communication with other cities, with county? How many systems are out there? And I just pretty much that communication system, the homeless, is, I don't know if they share like where they're coming from and the details.
As far as sharing information amongst law enforcement entities, especially in this region, we do a great job. Everybody, we work together. We provide information that's all shared. The sheriff's department provides information. From the law enforcement standpoint, the information is shared, and we have that data. That where it gets into confidentiality issues is when you're dealing with these nonprofits that provide housing, they provide medical services. There's information that they can't share with us legally. They have their own database. There's a need to know and a right to know kind of push and shove back and forth. So some of those databases and some of that information is not shared on the backside. They can say, hey, yeah, this person agreed to accept services, but they won't necessarily tell us where they went or exactly what service was provided. Like I said, as we've developed relationships with these entities, the information that can be provided is provided. So we do work well with many of these entities, and the information is shared because it is a need for the community and a safety issue. So it's progressed. But we all do, they do have their own entry system, their own database, and we have our own database. So there are separate databases, and some of them aren't for law enforcement access.
So is there a main hub that is given all this information? I mean, is it like LASA? Is it county?
Well, LASA has it. They have the CES system, the central entry system, I think they call it. So LASA has their database. Union Station has theirs. I don't know how well they mesh, but they both keep track of their records for sure.
But the nonprofits, so everybody's all separate?
Separate from law enforcement.
Even within themselves? I mean, like the nonprofits and LASA. I just wanted to know, like, who primarily has all the information to
The big database is Union Station and LASA because they're the housing navigators and the primary service entity to find services. So they have the databases when they enter somebody into the system. Now, we'll know when somebody gets entered in the system because we've given them a referral. They enter them in the system, but we might not necessarily know down the road what happens. Like, we don't know when they get necessarily, they won't notify us if they get kicked out of the housing program. But if we see them on the street, we call and say, what happened? Oh, they didn't want to follow the rules. So there's delay in information. It's not readily available. Like I said, it has improved, but it's still not 100%.
And do you know what happens if they get kicked out of the housing program? Or what? I mean, in City of LA, I know we have like the shelters, and that did occur. We actually house the homeless sheltering. And there are some that had to be kicked out. And then they just, either there or... But would you know the information if they get kicked out? Are they just left outside the city? Or are they given a token to go somewhere? Is there a location that they bring them to? Or do you know what happens after?
I would say normally, if it's a homeless person who calls West Covina home, they find their way back. Whether it's through a family member or Uber or a taxi, they get a voucher. They decide to take the bus, they walk back, they come. Normally what happens is they go back to what they're familiar with. So they'll find their way back to West Covina. I haven't seen them dropped off by service providers like, hey, you can take them back. I haven't seen that. Now, whether they offer them rides from those places or not through a voucher program, I know there's rideshare vouchers out there, so I'm sure that they're getting transportation provided for them.
Thank you. Did anybody else have a question?
I don't want to take too much time, but quickly, because the problem, because I listen to what you say and talk about a union station and talking about the agency. I think the problem is accountability. Accountability for example, union station. Okay, I think they are private entity received the major H money, right? Okay, so what kind of accountability they have? What kind of and the information they provide? They're talking about a lady has been kicked out 2 times. Is that true, or they just made it up? Okay, what kind of accountability? And the credibility from, or they just refused? To serve. So we want to know. What kind of accountability of their record? How many people they help in West Covina to find shelter? And the taxpayer pay them major H money. What kind of service they have? And I think and if they refuse to give to you, so we got a problem. How long the contract we still have from our agency with them?
It expires sometime towards the end of this year.
The end of this year, will be expired.
Yes.
So we can see what kind of performance we want to renew the service, because I think we're still paying them. Even they receive the major H money. So anytime we receive help, from them, possible we still have to pay them.
Sure.
Right.
They provide us a report with their data. They were actually here. They provided that report, but we get I think it's a quarterly report from them that tells us how many people they've contacted and then how many people have been placed into a program. So we get that data.
So some of the confidentiality issue they have refuse to provide the follow-up, and plus look like they have a problem to work with our police agency, due to they have some kind of different way to deal with business. So, I don't know how effective. We want all the help. We want all the service we can get to provide. We don't want an entity over here, just give us, the lift service, give them the hygiene, and didn't provide shelter. Their job is provide shelter, not provide food. They want to provide for them to have a housing. And that's what they get hired in our West Covina is about, right?
Yes.
So can we have a report before we, see we want to renew the contract with them? And that's the only thing I want is, or maybe the council want is accountability for people, get paid and provide service. We want to know what kind of service they provide for our homeless population in West Covina and provide shelter based on what they get hired for. Thank you.
I would just follow up on that and say that Kelly McDonald does a good job of staying on top of that, working with Brian Daniels, our lieutenant who oversees our homeless program, and the 5 cities who are involved in our program. They're constantly evaluating the program. So as a contract comes up, we will provide you with a report, and we will provide you with a recommendation on what we feel is best moving forward.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's about to
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just because I don't want to miss this opportunity when we have some common ground here. So you made a suggestion about possibly partnering with several cities to create a more permanent solution for our housing. And I think would that possibly be a way to hold people more accountable and also have better data for us to see about our people getting more permanent solutions? Is that kind of what you were speaking to?
Well, a means of providing permanent solutions in the area is something that we're going to have to discuss and look at, right? I know in every city in the area, it's the same conversation that we have. Everybody wants the shelter because they want the police to be able to enforce the overnight camping laws, but nobody wants it in their neighborhood, and we understand that. And I get it. So that's where the struggle, that's where the residents need to come together and decide, weigh the benefits, the goods and the bads, and are we going to have to do this? Is there a location somewhere regional that fits this thing best? Those are things that we look at as permanent solutions to say, hey, if we really want to find permanent solutions for this, there are some options but we're going to have to be willing to make that leap. Do you bring on a entity like the North County entities have, the CityNet, and let them run the service program for the area? Do you do that? Where does that land? And those are discussions that the community has to come together. Then you guys are going to have to make that decision. And that's why I suggest we work with the other cities. And then once you tell us where it's going, or if it's not going, or if it is going, then the police department can get together and develop a plan on then how do we utilize the resources that we have. But that's something that we need help with. If it's not going to happen in the region, then we're going to have to find another alternative. What if we don't get a permanent housing solution? What's the alternative to that? What's the outside limit? Where do we go? What is it? That's what we need to figure out. We're dancing around it, but I think we really need to seriously sit down and engage in conversation and find out if it's going to be something that we're going to engage in or it's something that we're not. And obviously, I think that's going to take some significant resident input, and then there'll be a discussion and some things that you guys do.
I want to follow through, Councilman Tabai regarding housing thing. Look at LA downtown, LA City. Look at how many homeless they have. And if you want to build housing, how many housing we can build? You build, they come. How many we can house them? 60,000, 70,000 of LA city and county homeless. So you never end. So how you resolve this issue? County really have to take the lead. They have all the $1 billion. They receive all this help from federal and state and our major age. And what West Covina resource we have? We pay taxes, but we don't have resource. And how we build all this housing? How many you can build, and how many you can house? How many they come? They can continue to come to us. How can we stop them? You cannot stop them. And you build, they come. So how many we can house them? So this is an issue. LA City cannot even build their own housing. They have a lot of money. Where's their housing? Now the judge want them to build housing with 3 months. Even want L County to build housing for them. They have the money. Where they build? Build in central jail that they evict all the criminal and not put the homeless people over there. That is ridiculous. So I have no idea what their so-called county and LA City, how they deal with their 40 years, 50 years of homeless population can grow more. So you're talking about permanent housing. I think we still have to go back to the community to do our, all this resource. We can find all this, nonprofits, see how can we help, with all the community to help out. Due to we really don't have a resource, and I don't know how we can force the city, even don't have the money, and try to have 31 cities to share all this so-called grant, and with 31 cities in San Gabriel Valley, and we only get, $50,000, and to build houses, I think this is unrealistic. Thank you.
I hear you. Now, Mr. Wu, I hope you don't misconstrue that I don't know if permanent housing is a solution to homelessness. I know that it's an option that's being offered now as a means to work within the parameters of the law. So right now it's a solution that seems to be something we should at least entertain. Like I said, in the region, I know if you look at other agencies, there's state funding, HEAP funding that's provided to build facilities, shelters, whatnot. So all those logistics are things that we can look into to see that if the resources are available and if there's a viable option. And like I said, if there's not, then we just need to know that, and we need to know what our plan moving forward from there is going to be and what resources we can utilize as a backup plan.
Okay.
I'd like to see that regional study or the regional partnership. So I'd like to see that definitely being moved forward. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you so much.
Sorry for taking up so much time. Thank you. All right, have a good night.
We haven't even gone into the consent calendar, huh? All right.
Midnight again.
That was the city manager's report. Now on to.
He's quiet. He didn't even say anything.
Yes. Do you have a question?
As you move to the consent calendar, may I remove from it tonight item 2, consideration of the agreement with National Demographics? this is a study that we're going to have to do to be in compliance with the state elections code. But I want to delay this because of the delay in the federal census and the data that's needed for it. So please, you can take that off your agenda tonight. Item 2.
Okay, so there's only 3 items. So does any other council want to pull anything? No? So do I have a motion to approve 1 and 3?
So move.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Madam Mayor, before I do roll call, I have to read the ordinance title into the record.
Okay.
Ordinance number 2485, Ordinance of the City Council of the City of West Covina, California, approving zone change number 20-3 and adopting the Vincent Place Specific Plan SP-31 at 1024 West Workman Avenue.
Okay.
Can I clarify the motion was made by Councilman Wu and the second was Councilmember Tabatabai. Councilmember Tabatabai?
Aye.
Councilman Wu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Diaz?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Castellanos?
Aye.
Mayor Lopez Viado?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. That ends the consent calendar. On to department regular matters. Item number 4, consideration of coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery and fiscal year 2021 to 2022 budget amendments. City manager who will present the update.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Our finance director took ill and I sent her home. But we have a very qualified member of our team in our assistant finance director, Stephanie Sikkema. I'm going to ask her to step in and give this entire report tonight rather than just the portion that she had expected to provide. So, Stephanie, if you would.
Good evening. So tonight's item is to cover and affirm the projects that will be used for the Recovery Act funds, and then to address 2 items that were that are proposed to be a budget amendment. The city is receiving over $19.5 million in the Recovery Act funds. We received half of it in May, and we'll receive the second half next May. And we have until 2024 to actually obligate all of those funds, and then 2026 to actually use them. There are several statutory eligible uses. 1 through 3, categories 1 through 3, are items that must be related to COVID-19, whether it's responding to public health, addressing economic impacts, responding to workers performing essential work related to COVID-19. They have to some way correspond with the pandemic. The 4th category is government services to the extent of revenue loss, which I'll go into a little bit more in a second, and then water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. The category for revenue services to the extent of revenue loss is actually a calculation designed by the Treasury that allows the city to look back at points over 4 years, basically, in December 31st, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023, with our base year being fiscal year 19, so before the pandemic. And based on that base year, our growth rate is 5.5%, and we have an estimated revenue loss of $5.9 million just for 2020. We anticipate that at least $3.6 million will be accumulated over the next few years based on that calculation that the Treasury has set. This is the broadest category in which the city staff is proposing to use most of its funding because it is the most broad for government services. So infrastructure, roads, software, critical IT infrastructure, police, fire, parks and rec can all be used out of this category, and it doesn't have to relate at all to COVID-19. There are some restrictions. Some ineligible uses include paying interest on outstanding debt, replenishing any of our reserve funds, paying settlements or judgments, depositing into a pension fund, and matching on non-federal grants. So we can use it to match a federal grant, but just not non. Going into the list of proposed expenses, since we've gone over this a few times in a public forum, and then again when council saw the budget, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but I am going to point out some items that staff is proposing to modify. The first is within the public health expenses. We are still proposing to spend about $9.4 million in that category, but we are proposing to shift some of the money that was allocated for the fire station repairs to fund 2 new ambulances, as we have had several ambulances out of service, which is obviously a critical need and can be correlated to pandemic response. In the next category, we are proposing to keep that funding amount the same, which is $1 million to address negative economic impacts. And for that one, we're proposing to do job training and hoping to partner with the San Gabriel Valley. Then the last one is the proposed expenses for revenue loss. So this is the broad category. And staff is not proposing any changes to this at this time. However, we do want to say that as bids come in and proposals come in, we will be coming to council and maybe proposing to change allocations within these projects, as some may come in over and others may come in way under. There are, like with any other federal funding, terms and conditions. A major one that I would like to point out is that all of these must meet federal procurement, suspension, and debarment standards, which means that we have to make sure that we are abiding by the most stringent procurement standards, which in most cases will either be our state or our local policies. And there are also reporting requirements. The first is an interim report that's due August 31st, which is just an initial status of our funding through July 31st, which for us is not much because we have not really obligated any but the public service agreement, professional services agreement for the health department. And then we'll be expected to do quarterly reports after that. So for that section, before we move on to the budget amendments, are there any questions?
Are there any questions with that? Councilman Wu.
Sorry, it's me again, okay. I cannot control not talking, okay, so I cannot leave you alone. I'm going to ask you some questions to be fair. Okay, I think it's okay, and we approved the budget June 30th, okay, and we increase, okay, and that time, based on last year income, and then we have potentially $2.6 million of deficit, right? Okay, and then we add 10. Okay, and the people say, oh, we spending like James say bankruptcy. Okay, I'm really tired of that bankruptcy thing. But the thing is, we know it. Basically, this $2.6 million is based on last year income. When we get shut down, we have no business, no hotel, nothing. So that's just a very conservative. And right now, okay, I think still early, you can see the hotel is open. And I asked about, okay, Holiday Inn, they book. Okay, they told me, wow, they didn't say they left into the bank, but they're pretty happy that they always fully book. So meaning that TOT tax will come back to us. That's about $2 million. And plus, okay, look at the mall. Look at the restaurant, right? Look at the traffic. I have a hard time to drive from Temple City over here. The traffic is really intense. So meaning what? A lot of people outside doing business, and our GDP is pretty high right now. So meaning our income is much higher than last year when we get shut down. So I really hope we can have a update income number. I know it's still early, but we should have that number to offset based on the conservative last year, everything is shut down. That's the first thing. Okay, so I don't think we have the deficit at all, okay, based on what we have right now. And plus, we have so many development coming in, like West Korea become like a hot cookie. Everybody want to come and basically open up the wallet and they give to the city with all this development, with all this housing. That's one thing. And we talk about 10. Here, I want you maybe answer, is that true? We have a potentially higher 10%. Okay, we want a higher 10 police officers due to last year, before the pandemic, we have a 99 budget, okay, and due to the pandemic, we cut down to 90. Now we go back to the 99 plus 1. So basically, we only increased 1 police officer, okay, before the pandemic. Okay, and this 10 officer we request basically that is for the entry level. So we're talking about, okay, possible, okay, $1.2 million of this. This will be from general fund. And another one, 10, okay, public work. That absolutely coming from, okay, that is, over here didn't say, okay, this is from restricted fund. It's not from general fund. Make sense, right? Am I right? Yes, right? Stephanie, yes? Yeah. Thank you, okay.
Yes,
yeah.
you are correct.
No, just say yes or no, okay? So you're too polite. I hope I didn't scare you. I know. Sometimes.
No, I would like to add that staff has also been seeking grants, and we're hoping to get a couple of grants to help fund some of the police officers as well.
We have a grant so we don't even have to spend $1.2 million. So somebody talking about we're going to bankrupt the city, we improve the service that what resident request. We want safety, okay, and we are under protection previously. Right now, with this 10 police officer, with Mr. Foot talking about he want to know his neighborhood, okay, have a patrol. And we want to make sure in his neighborhood we have a patrol. They pay taxes, they deserve the service. Make sense? And we have a grant. Thank you so much, Stephanie, to apply grant. So in that way, we even cut down the $1.2 million of annually of this 10 police officer. And then 10 public work, that is coming from restricted fund. So it's not from general fund. Am I right?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. And then the part-time is only, $390,000 based on this, but they create revenue because people do not comply. We will find them to make sure they comply, to make sure the city is clean, and all those property or business, okay, need to comply with our coordinates. Make sense? So that basically pay for itself. So where is the deficit? Maybe you can explain to us currently how you see with this budget increased service, increased safety, and it didn't utilize too much of a general fund. Am I right?
So we're still working on closing the fiscal year for last year, but we have seen an uptick in increase in revenues over the past few months. So if that continues, we do look to see a better outcome over the next fiscal year.
So meaning we're not going to have a deficit spending. We basically potentially surplus. Am I right?
It will depend on how the year turns out, but we could possibly see a surplus in this fiscal year. And we'll have to see how long-term works because we've received a lot of one-time funds.
Yeah, understand. We don't want to talk too much about taboo surplus because then everybody want to request a raise. So we want to say we possible balance. Make more sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then so in that way, what we want to approve tonight is about the Federal Rescue Fund we need to locate in their, okay, spending. Am I right?
That's one part. If you want any changes to that list that staff has included, that was included in the budget, that is what we're asking for tonight. The other part is the budget amendment to actually include the dollars for the 30 positions that council included in the budget. And then the last portion is to authorize a budget for the sports PECs so that staff can actually initiate operations.
Okay, and currently, okay, then the police 10, okay, I think based on the last report, we already hired 6. And code enforcement, we have 6. And public work, how many we have?
Sorry, for code enforcement, I believe we have, they're reviewing the applications for the 10 positions. We have hired 4 maintenance workers. So we're recruiting for 6. We had thought we had recruited for 6. 2 did not show up. So we have 4 on board already. And then we have 4 on board with the going through background, I believe, for the police department, and then recruiting the 6 other positions.
Okay, how many? Okay, we have a retiree. Okay, maybe how many they are going to retire? Do we have a police department? Do we have a number for that? Because we need to make sure our service level can. Otherwise, no matter how we hire, we have more people retire or leave us. So
we have
a number for that.
We have I don't have the number with me. We can provide that number, but we do have ongoing recruitment.
City manager.
Yeah, go ahead, city manager.
I expect 5 police department retirements by the end of the calendar year.
This year they are going to by December.
Yes.
So 5 retiree.
They don't always tell us ahead. I'm just giving us.
But
our
we
best.
we need to recruit 5 plus. Okay, the 10 we want to. Otherwise, we can never see the improvement of our service on the street.
Through the chair, our recruitment for those positions is continuous, and we're aware, and we're doing everything we can to reach out. It's a very difficult series and position to recruit for right now, given the context of these times. We are continuing to push and attend job fairs, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. I yield my time.
Anybody else have a question? No, is there a motion?
I move the motion to approve.
We're seeking approval of resolution number 2021-89, which is in your packet as attachment 1.
First and a second. Councilwoman Diaz. Roll call.
I have a motion by Councilman Wu and a second by Councilwoman Diaz. Sorry. Councilmember Tabatabai.
Just for clarification, we're voting on the budget amendment for the 30 hires, correct?
It's all contained in a single resolution. It enables the 10-10-10, which is the additional positions the council approved the night the budget was up for adoption, changes the numbers within the budget, and it budgets for the American Recovery Act funds that was presented tonight by Stephanie. So those are moved over from a wish list to an actual budget tonight by this action.
No.
Councilman Wu.
Aye.
Councilwoman Diaz.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Castellanos.
Aye.
Mayor Lopez Viado.
Aye. Motion passes 4-1. Okay, now on to Mayor Council member reports. Is there any? None. City Council request? And City Council comments? Then this meeting is officially adjourned. Have a good night.
Good job. Okay.